Tonight, we are standing at the edge of a mystery older than marble temples, older than the songs of poets, older even than Olympus itself. Far beyond the reach of mortal kingdoms, beyond the glow of sacred fires and the sound of waves striking harbour stones, there exists a question that haunted the ancient imagination. How did the ruler of the dead become who he was? Why was the most feared god among mortals also one of the most isolated? And why did the Lord of Shadows spend the earliest years of his existence trapped inside a darkness not of his own making? So before we continue tonight's journey, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy exploring these ancient stories together. And if you feel comfortable, perhaps share your location and local time in the comments. There is something comforting about knowing where fellow travelers are listening beneath the same stars. Now settle into the quiet. Allow the noise of the day to drift away. Imagine cool night air brushing your skin. Imagine distant waves moving beneath moonlight. Imagine a sky filled with countless stars. And beneath that endless sky, the story begins. Not with a kingdom, not with a throne, but with fear. You find yourself in a universe still young. The mountains have not yet received their names. The seas remain wild and uncertain. The great order of the cosmos has not yet taken shape. At the center of this unfinished world stands the Titan King Cronus. Powerful, victorious, feared by gods and titans alike. Yet, despite all his strength, Cronus lives with a secret terror. Long ago, a prophecy reached his ears. A warning. One day, one of his own children would overthrow him. The prediction echoed through his thoughts like distant thunder. He could not silence it. He could not escape it. Ancient storytellers often paused here. They understood something important. No prison is stronger than fear, and no fear is greater than the fear of losing power. So when his wife Rhea gave birth to their first child, Cronus made a choice that would shape countless destinies. A terrible choice. A choice born from panic. A choice that transformed an innocent child into a victim before his life had truly begun. That child was Hades. You do not hear celebrations. There are no joyful songs, no gathering of divine relatives, no feast beneath torchlight. Instead, there is silence. The silence of shock. The silence of horror. The newborn god enters existence only to disappear from the world moments later. Cronus swallows him whole. The act feels almost impossible to imagine. Yet in mythology, impossible things often reveal deeper truths. The ancient Greeks understood this story, not merely as an event, but as a symbol. Power consuming innocence, fear devouring the future, a father destroying the very thing he hopes to preserve. And so Hades vanishes, not into death, not into sleep, but into a strange living darkness. The world continues above him, yet he remains hidden from it. Some ancient traditions imagined this imprisonment as a place beyond ordinary understanding. Others believed the swallowed children existed in a state between consciousness and dream. No one can know exactly how the earlier storytellers pictured it. Historians continue to debate the meaning, but all versions share one truth. Hades grows up without freedom, without sunlight, without choice. Above, seasons pass. Stars move across the heavens. Sea winds travel over distant islands. Moonlight touches mountain peaks. Yet none of these things reach him. You imagine endless darkness, cool, silent, timeless. No olive groves, no rivers, no voices except those trapped beside him. Because Hades is not alone for long. One by one, new children arrive. First comes Demeter, then Hera, then Poseidon. Each swallowed, each imprisoned, each joining the strange existence within Cronus. Ancient poets rarely described conversations among them, yet listeners often wondered, did they speak together? Did they comfort one another? Did they dream of a world they had never seen? Or did they simply endure? The mystery remains. And perhaps that uncertainty gives the story its power. Because isolation changes people, even gods. Long before Hades rules the dead, he learns what separation feels like. Long before he governs souls who cannot return to life, he experiences confinement himself. The lessons of his future kingdom begin here, in darkness, in waiting, in silence. Far above, Rhea watches her children disappear. Her grief deepens with each birth. The scent of incense fills her temples. Sacred fires burn through long nights. Yet nothing eases her sorrow. You can almost feel her helplessness. The cold stone beneath her feet. The mountain winds tugging at her robes. The knowledge that another child has vanished forever. Or so she believes. The relationship between Hades and his mother is often overlooked. Yet her suffering becomes part of his story. A consequence already beginning to unfold. Because every choice creates echoes. And every echo eventually returns. As years pass, Cronus convinces himself he has defeated fate. The prophecy seems powerless. No challenger rises. No rebellion appears. The cosmos remains his, at least on the surface. But prophecies possess a strange nature in Greek mythology. The harder someone tries to escape them, the closer they often move toward fulfillment. Many ancient listeners would have recognized the irony immediately. Cronus believes he is protecting his throne, yet his actions are preparing the very future he fears. And deep within the darkness, Hades waits. Patiently, silently, unknown even to himself. He does not yet know he will become a king. He does not know he will one day command an entire realm. He does not know that mortals will fear his name for thousands of years. He knows only confinement, the touch of darkness, the absence of freedom. Some researchers believe this early imprisonment explains much about Hades' later character. Unlike Zeus, who embraces the sky, unlike Poseidon, who revels in the restless sea, Hades rarely seeks attention, rarely seeks praise, rarely seeks glory. Perhaps because he spent his earliest existence without any of those things. Or perhaps another explanation survives. Perhaps destiny had already chosen a path for him. No one can say for certain. Outside, the universe continues growing. Mountains rise, rivers carve valleys. The stars wheel slowly overhead. And somewhere beyond sight, another child is preparing to enter the story. A child whose birth will change everything. A child whose arrival will finally break the prison surrounding Hades and his siblings. But that moment remains far away. For now the darkness endures. The prophecy remains unfinished. And the child hidden from the light waits in silence, while destiny quietly gathers strength beyond the walls of his invisible prison. The darkness continues. Not the comforting darkness of a quiet bedroom. Not the darkness beneath a peaceful night sky. This is a deeper darkness. A darkness without stars, a darkness without horizons, a darkness without any promise of dawn. And within it, Hades remains. You drift beside him through years that seem to have no beginning and no end. Time behaves strangely here. Above, entire seasons unfold across the young world. Snow gathers on mountain peaks. Spring flowers open across distant valleys. Summer heat shimmers over rocky shores. Autumn winds move through forests, yet none of these changes can be seen. None can be touched. They exist only as possibilities beyond reach. For Hades, existence becomes an endless waiting. The ancient Greeks rarely described exactly what occurred during these lost years. That silence is interesting. Stories usually celebrate victories and adventures. Yet the earliest chapter of Hades' life contains neither, only endurance. And perhaps that is the point. Sometimes survival becomes its own kind of achievement. You imagine the strange company surrounding him, his sisters, his brothers, children born into imprisonment, each carrying a destiny they cannot yet understand. Ancient traditions differ on how aware they were during this confinement. Some storytellers imagined them conscious, others suggested a dreamlike existence. Another interpretation survives in which the swallowed gods existed in a suspended state between life and sleep. No one can know for certain. The mystery remains. Yet whether awake or dreaming, the symbolism is clear. Their futures have been stolen. For now, above them Cronus rules. His kingdom appears secure. The Titan king walks beneath wide skies and believes the prophecy has been defeated. You can almost picture him standing atop high cliffs. Cold sea winds moving through his hair, the scent of salt rising from crashing waves, the distant cry of seabirds echoing across the coast. He looks powerful, untouchable, yet fear follows him everywhere. That fear never leaves. Every feast, every celebration, every triumph. The prophecy waits nearby, silent, patient, watching. Ancient myths often treat prophecies like seeds. invisible at first, but constantly growing beneath the soil, and the seed planted in Cronus's heart continues spreading roots. Meanwhile, Rhea suffers alone. Night after night, sacred fires burn before her. Offerings fill hidden shrines. Prayers rise toward powers older than Titans. The warmth of torchlight dances across stone walls. The smell of incense lingers in cool air. Still her children remain lost. You stand beside her beneath moonlit skies. You hear the distant rustle of olive trees. You feel the chill of mountain mist. And you begin to understand something important. Hades is not the only prisoner in this story. Rhea is trapped as well. Trapped by grief. Trapped by helplessness. Trapped by the knowledge that she cannot protect those she loves. This sorrow slowly transforms into determination. The choice she eventually makes will alter the entire cosmos. But that moment has not arrived yet. For now she waits. And so does Hades. Waiting becomes the rhythm of his existence. Many later myths portray Hades as calm, reserved, difficult to provoke. Unlike Zeus, he rarely acts impulsively. Unlike Poseidon, he rarely erupts in sudden anger. Some scholars believe those traits begin here. Inside confinement, inside stillness, inside years of patient endurance. When movement becomes impossible, patience becomes necessary. When escape cannot be found, resilience becomes strength. Whether the Greeks consciously intended this interpretation remains uncertain. Historians continue to debate, yet the connection feels natural. The future king of the dead learns stillness before anything else. He learns how to endure what cannot be changed. He learns how to exist within limits, lessons that will one day define his kingdom. Because the underworld itself operates according to limits, boundaries, rules, invisible lines that even gods respect. Long before Hades rules such a realm, he experiences those boundaries firsthand. The consequence of Cronus's fear continues shaping him. Above, strange signs begin appearing across the cosmos. At first, they seem insignificant. A dream experienced by a wandering titan, a mysterious voice heard during a ritual, a bird flying in an unusual direction. The Greeks loved such omens. The world around them felt alive with messages. A sudden storm, an unexpected eclipse, a flickering sacred flame. Anything could contain meaning. And now the signs begin gathering. Ancient traditions preserve fragments of these warnings. Nothing direct, nothing certain, only hints, whispers, suggestions that fate remains active, that destiny has not surrendered, that somewhere, somehow change is approaching. Cronus notices some of these signs, others he ignores. That is often the tragedy of mythological kings. They hear warnings but misunderstand them, or recognize them too late. One night, according to later traditions, troubling dreams disturb the ruler's sleep. He sees shadows rising. He sees thrones shaking. He sees figures emerging from darkness. The images vanish before meaning becomes clear. Yet the unease remains. You can imagine him waking suddenly. The cool air of night against his skin. Sacred fires burning low. Silence filling vast halls. A powerful ruler frightened by visions he cannot explain. Meanwhile, Hades knows nothing of these omens. Or perhaps he senses them indirectly. Ancient myths leave room for imagination. Perhaps strange feelings drift through the darkness. Perhaps distant echoes carry hints of change. Perhaps hope begins awakening before reason can explain why. No one knows. And perhaps uncertainty itself becomes part of the story. The Greeks often understood fate as something felt before it was understood. A movement beneath the surface. A shift in unseen currents. Like a sailor sensing weather before clouds appear. Like an animal growing restless before a storm. Something is changing, something important. Far away, another child is about to be born. A child whose fate will become inseparable from Hades' own. Rhea knows the prophecy remains alive, and this time she refuses to surrender. The world itself seems to recognize the approaching moment. Mountain winds grow stronger. Sacred groves fall unusually quiet. Priests studying ritual signs speak in cautious voices. The air feels different, charged, expectant. Ancient audiences would immediately recognize such moments. The pause before transformation, the breath before destiny speaks. Yet inside the prison, life remains unchanged. Darkness, waiting, silence. The contrast is almost painful. The greatest event of Hades' early existence approaches, yet he cannot see it, cannot influence it, cannot prepare for it. He remains hidden from the world, a forgotten child, a lost god, a prisoner whose future kingdom has not yet been imagined. And still he endures. That endurance matters, because every future responsibility, every future sacrifice, every future burden will require the same strength. The underworld will one day demand patience, judgment, restraint, acceptance, all the qualities now quietly forming within him, though he cannot know it. Though no one can yet see it, destiny is shaping him in darkness, the way roots grow beneath soil before reaching sunlight, the way rivers carve stone long before anyone notices, the way stars begin their journeys long before their light arrives. Above the final pieces move into place, Rhea prepares her plan, the prophecy stirs, the omens multiply, and somewhere beyond sight a child named Zeus is about to enter the world. Yet the consequences of that birth have not appeared. Not yet. For now, Hades remains where he has always been, hidden, silent, waiting, while fate quietly approaches through the darkness toward the prison that has held him for so very long. At first, nothing seems different. The darkness remains. The silence remains. The long years of waiting continue as they always have. Yet somewhere beyond the prison surrounding Hades and his siblings, destiny is finally moving. You stand beneath a night sky far from Cronus' palace. Stars shimmer above rugged mountains. Cool winds drift through pine forests. A newborn child is being carried into hiding. His name is Zeus. Unlike the children before him, he does not disappear into his father's grasp. Rhea has learned from grief. She refuses to surrender another son. Instead, she wraps a stone in swaddling cloth and presents it to Cronus. Blinded by fear and habit, the Titan King swallows the stone. The deception succeeds. For the first time, the prophecy survives. Ancient storytellers loved this moment, not because of violence, not because of triumph, but because of hope. After years of darkness, hope finally enters the story. And though Hades cannot yet see it, that hope belongs to him as well. Far away on the island of Crete, Zeus grows in secret. You can almost hear the sounds surrounding his hidden childhood. Goats moving across rocky hillsides, wind brushing through cypress trees, the distant crash of waves below sea cliffs, sacred caves echoing with dripping water. Every day he survives brings the prophecy closer to fulfillment. Every year strengthens the challenge awaiting Cronus. Meanwhile, Hades remains imprisoned. The contrast is striking. One brother grows beneath open skies. The other waits within endless darkness. One experiences freedom. The other knows only confinement. Yet mythology often binds opposites together. The life of Zeus and the life of Hades are already connected. Neither fully understands the other. Yet each is helping shape the other's destiny. Years pass. Zeus becomes strong, wise enough to conceal his intentions, patient enough to wait. The lessons of his hidden childhood prepare him for the task ahead. Eventually, the moment arrives. Ancient traditions describe it in different ways. Some say Zeus used a magical potion. Others speak of divine cunning. Another version credits the wisdom of older powers who wished to see Cronus fall. The details vary. The outcome does not. Cronus is forced to release the children he swallowed. The prison breaks. The darkness ends. And Hades emerges. Pause for a moment and imagine it. After a lifetime without horizons, he suddenly sees distance. After years without sunlight, he sees brightness. After endless confinement, he sees the world. For the first time, the experience must have felt overwhelming. You stand beside him. The sky stretches forever overhead. Clouds drift across brilliant blue. Sea air carries the scent of salt. Sunlight warms cold skin. Birds wheel through open space. Waves glitter beneath the afternoon sun. Everything is new. Everything is impossible. Everything is beautiful. Ancient myths rarely dwell on this emotional moment. Yet, it may be one of the most important experiences of Hades' life. Because freedom means more to those who have lived without it. The Greeks understood this deeply. Many of their greatest stories explore the relationship between captivity and liberation, loss and recovery, darkness and light, and Hades experiences both in their most extreme forms. One by one, his siblings emerge as well. Demeter, Hera, Poseidon, the family that existed only in confinement, now stands together beneath the open sky. You can imagine their wonder, their uncertainty, their cautious joy. Yet freedom brings challenges. Relationships must now be built. These brothers and sisters share origins. They share suffering, but they barely know one another. The years stolen by Cronus cannot simply be returned. Trust takes time. Understanding takes time. Family itself must be rediscovered. This becomes one of the hidden themes of Hades' story. Many later myths focus on kingdoms and powers. Yet beneath those larger events lies something simpler. A family trying to heal. A family trying to understand itself. A family carrying scars from the same wound. Zeus quickly emerges as a leader. His confidence is unmistakable. His ambition burns brightly. The heavens seem almost drawn toward him. Poseidon possesses a different energy. Restless, powerful, like the sea he will someday rule. And Hades remains quieter. Observant, reserved. He watches more than he speaks. Ancient traditions rarely portray him seeking attention. Perhaps those lost years shaped him differently. Perhaps darkness taught him reflection. Or perhaps destiny already knew the role he would eventually play. The answer remains uncertain. As the siblings reunite, signs begin appearing once more. The world itself seems to react. An eagle circles high overhead. Sacred fires burn with unusual brightness. Priests and seers report strange dreams. The Greeks would have recognized these as messages. The cosmos is speaking. The old order is ending. The new order approaches. One surviving tradition tells of prophetic whispers spreading among divine beings. The imprisoned children have returned. The age of Cronus is nearing its conclusion, yet victory remains far away. Freedom is only the beginning. The greater challenge still waits ahead. War. The Titan King has no intention of surrendering power. Why would he? For years he believed the prophecy defeated. Now his greatest fear stands before him. Not one child, but several. Not weakness, but growing strength. You can imagine Cronus looking upon his released children. Perhaps surprise flashes across his face. Perhaps anger. Perhaps a deeper fear than ever before. Because the prophecy has become real. No longer a distant possibility. No longer an abstract warning. Real. Living. Standing before him. And among those figures stands Hades. The forgotten child. The hidden son. The prisoner who has finally stepped into the light. Ancient audiences knew something important at this point. Freedom alone does not complete a journey. It merely creates the opportunity for one. Hades has escaped darkness, but he has not yet discovered who he truly is. That question still waits. What kind of god will he become? A warrior, a king, a judge, a guardian. No one knows, not even Hades himself. The answer lies ahead. Far beyond these first moments of freedom, far beyond the family reunion, far beyond the relief of survival, because destiny is already preparing another challenge, a challenge so immense that it will reshape the cosmos itself. The Titans still rule, Cronus still holds power, and across the world, signs of approaching conflict multiply. Dreams grow darker, omens grow stronger, thunder rolls across distant mountains without storms. The air itself feels charged with expectation. The old age is ending. The new age is preparing to begin. And Hades, newly returned from nothingness, stands at the threshold between them, unaware that the greatest war in divine history is about to call his name. Freedom brings a strange problem. For years, Hades and his siblings dreamed of escape. They imagined open skies. They imagined sunlight. They imagined life beyond the darkness. Now they have all of those things. Yet peace does not follow. Instead, another choice appears before them. A harder choice. A more dangerous choice. You stand with Hades upon a high mountainside as dawn slowly spreads across the horizon. The sky glows with pale gold. Morning mist drifts through distant valleys. Cold air carries the scent of pine and damp earth. Far below, rivers shine like silver threads. The world is beautiful. The world is free. But the world is not safe. Cronus still rules. The Titans still command enormous power. And everyone understands a simple truth. As long as Cronus remains king, none of the children he imprisoned will ever truly be secure. The prophecy has escaped. Now the prophecy must be fulfilled or destroyed. There is no middle path. Ancient storytellers often describe this moment as a turning point not only for the cosmos but for Hades himself. Until now, most events have happened to him. He was swallowed, he was imprisoned, he was released. Others made those choices. Others controlled his fate. Now, for the first time, he must decide something for himself. Will he fight or will he retreat? It is an important question, because war against the Titans is not merely dangerous. It appears impossible. The Titans have ruled for ages. Their power seems woven into the foundations of existence. Many are enormous in strength. Others possess ancient wisdom. Some have governed parts of creation since the earliest days of the world. To challenge them feels almost foolish. Yet myths often begin where certainty ends. The young gods gather together. You can imagine them beneath a sky filled with stars. Sacred fires crackle nearby. Their light dances across stone faces and bronze weapons. The night air feels cool against their skin. Around them stretches a world waiting to see what happens next. Zeus speaks first. Most traditions agree on this. Leadership comes naturally to him. His words burn with confidence. The future, he insists, does not belong to Cronus. The future belongs to those willing to claim it. The message resonates, especially with those who have suffered, especially with Hades. Because Hades understands something many others do not. The cost of surrender. He has already experienced life under Cronus's rule. He has already felt the consequences of fear. He knows what happens when tyranny remains unchallenged. And so slowly the quiet god reaches a decision. He will fight. Not for glory, not for praise, not even for revenge. He will fight because some things cannot be allowed to continue. This choice reveals an important part of his character. Throughout mythology, Hades rarely seeks conflict, but when responsibility demands action, he does not retreat from it. The pattern begins here, a consequence of everything he has endured. Ancient audiences would have recognized this trait immediately. The strongest rulers are not always those who crave power. Sometimes they are those willing to bear burdens others avoid. Soon, preparations begin. The war that follows becomes known as the Titanomachy, a struggle so immense that later generations struggle to imagine it. The earth trembles, mountains shake, the sea churns beneath violent storms, thunder echoes across vast distances. The very structure of the cosmos seems unstable. Yet, before the battles truly begin, an omen appears, a mysterious sign, one of many. According to some traditions, strange fires burn atop remote peaks without fuel. Other versions describe unusual dreams shared by multiple gods. Another story speaks of stars moving in unexpected patterns. Historians continue to debate how these omens developed across different oral traditions. What matters is their meaning. The universe itself appears to anticipate change. You stand beside Hades as he observes these signs. Unlike Zeus, he does not rush toward interpretation. Unlike many others, he does not immediately assume victory. His years in darkness have taught caution, patience, humility before uncertainty. This restraint will eventually become one of his defining qualities. Yet caution does not prevent commitment. When war begins, Hades marches beside his siblings. The battles are difficult to imagine. Ancient poets describe mountains hurled through the sky, flames rising from broken earth, the roar of conflict echoing across creation itself. But tonight, rather than focusing on spectacle, you remain beside Hades. You watch the war through his experience. You feel the cold stone beneath his feet before battle. You hear distant thunder rolling across dark horizons. You smell smoke drifting through the air. You sense uncertainty, because victory remains far from certain. Many times the conflict appears balanced. Many times neither side gains a lasting advantage. Years pass, then more years. The struggle stretches onward, and during those difficult years, Hades begins changing. The prisoner becomes a warrior. The silent survivor becomes a protector, not because he desires violence, because circumstances require strength. Ancient myths often portray transformation through action rather than explanation. You become what your challenges demand, and Hades' challenges demand resilience. One night, according to a lesser-known tradition, a prophetic dream reaches the young gods. The details vary. Dreams always vary. Yet the central image remains remarkably consistent. Deep beneath the earth lies hidden power. Ancient allies wait in darkness. For Hades, the dream feels strangely personal. The symbolism is impossible to ignore. Darkness has shaped his entire life. Darkness imprisoned him. Darkness taught him endurance. Now, darkness may also contain salvation. The dream leads the younger gods toward a critical realization. The Titans are not the only ancient beings in existence. Far below, the earth-forgotten powers remain imprisoned. Powers with reason to hate Cronus. Powers capable of changing the war. This discovery becomes one of the most important consequences of Hades' decision to fight. Had he chosen another path, everything that follows might have unfolded differently. The Greeks loved these chains of consequence. One choice leading to another. One action creating unexpected outcomes. Nothing isolated, everything connected. As preparations begin for a dangerous journey beneath the earth, Hades feels a strange familiarity. Others descend into darkness reluctantly. He does not. Darkness has been his companion before. He knows its silence. He knows its uncertainty. He knows its hidden dangers. And perhaps, in some way, it knows him. Ancient storytellers may have seen symbolism here. Long before becoming Lord of the Underworld, Hades repeatedly finds himself drawn toward hidden places beneath the world, almost as though destiny has already chosen his future kingdom. Or perhaps another interpretation survives. Perhaps his experiences simply prepared him better than anyone else. The mystery remains, as many mysteries should. The war continues. The Titans remain powerful. The future remains uncertain. Yet something has changed. Hades is no longer merely surviving events. He is shaping them. The child swallowed by fear has begun making choices of his own. And those choices are already altering the course of history. Far beneath the earth, ancient prisoners wait. Ancient powers stir. And the next stage of Hades' transformation is about to begin. For in the darkness below, hidden gifts and hidden allies are preparing to emerge. Gifts that will help determine the fate of gods, titans, and the cosmos itself. But destiny has not yet revealed their full purpose. Not yet. The war continues. Year after year, the struggle between the titans and the younger gods stretches across the cosmos. No decisive victory arrives. No final triumph appears. The earth shakes beneath endless conflict. The sea groans beneath storms. The heavens flash with fire and thunder. Yet, despite all the noise, uncertainty remains. You stand beside Hades upon a rocky slope overlooking a battlefield scarred by years of war. Cold wind sweeps across broken stone. Smoke drifts upward from distant fires. The scent of ash lingers in the air. Far away, lightning flickers against dark clouds. The conflict seems endless. Many warriors would lose hope. Many rulers would grow impatient. But Hades has already endured years that felt eternal. Patience remains one of his greatest strengths. Still, patience alone cannot win a war. The younger gods need something more. They need allies. They need power. And perhaps most importantly, they need wisdom. The prophetic dream spoken of earlier refuses to fade. Again and again, stories point toward hidden beings imprisoned beneath the earth. Ancient powers forgotten by much of the world. Victims of Cronus, just as Hades himself had once been. The connection is impossible to ignore. The prisoner recognizes prisoners. The survivor understands those abandoned by power. And so a dangerous mission begins. The younger gods descend beneath the surface of the world. You follow beside Hades into realms few beings have ever seen. The air grows colder. The light fades. The scent of damp stone surrounds you. Water echoes through distant caverns. Ancient shadows cling to towering walls. It is a place of silence, a place of secrets, a place that feels strangely familiar. Many myths describe this descent with awe, not because of monsters, not because of terror, but because the deeper realms of existence represent hidden truths. Things forgotten, things buried, things waiting. And waiting is something Hades understands very well. Eventually, the travelers reach their destination. There imprisoned within the depths are the Cyclopes, gigantic one-eyed beings of immense skill, ancient craftsmen, master builders, victims of Cronus' fear. Nearby dwell the hundred-handed ones, the Hecaton Chires, powerful beings whose strength seems almost impossible to imagine. Like Hades, they have spent years trapped in darkness. Like Hades, they know what it means to be forgotten. Ancient listeners would have noticed this parallel immediately. The young god who survived imprisonment now becomes the liberator. The cycle begins to reverse. The consequence of suffering becomes compassion. Rather than abandoning these prisoners, the younger gods free them. The chains break. The darkness opens. Old wrongs begin to heal. And in gratitude, the Cyclopes offer gifts, not ordinary gifts, gifts capable of changing destiny. To Zeus, they present the thunderbolt, a weapon that will become synonymous with his name. To Poseidon, they grant the trident, a symbol of mastery over the sea. And to Hades, they offer something different, something quieter, something mysterious, the helm of darkness, the cap of invisibility. You watch as the gift is placed into his hands. The metal seems almost alive, ancient, silent. Its surface catches faint traces of light before swallowing them again. Unlike Zeus' thunderbolt, it does not announce itself. Unlike Poseidon's trident, it does not command attention. The helm hides rather than reveals, conceals rather than displays. At first glance, some might consider it the lesser gift. Ancient myths suggest otherwise, because true power often operates unseen. The moment Hades places the helm upon his head, something extraordinary happens. He vanishes, not into shadow, not into mist. He simply disappears. The space where he stood becomes empty. Only the sound of breathing remains. Only faint footprints suggest his presence. You imagine the strange sensation. The cool metal against his brow, the sudden separation from sight, the realization that he can move through the world unnoticed. The gift feels uniquely suited to him, almost as though destiny itself selected it. Some scholars have noted this symbolism. Zeus receives a weapon associated with the sky. Poseidon receives a symbol of the sea. Hades receives mastery over the unseen, over hidden things, over mysteries. The pattern feels deliberate. Though historians continue to debate whether these associations emerged gradually through oral tradition, whatever their origin, the symbolism remains powerful. The helm reflects something already growing within Hades, his connection to the invisible aspects of existence, his comfort with places others fear, his ability to function without recognition. Many heroes crave admiration, many rulers seek praise. Hades rarely does. The helm transforms that quality into strength. Soon, its value becomes clear. The war enters a new phase. The younger gods begin using strategy alongside force, and Hades becomes essential. Ancient stories tell of secret missions, hidden movements, critical actions performed beyond enemy sight. The details vary between traditions. Some accounts describe him infiltrating Titan strongholds. Others suggest he moved unseen across battlefields gathering information. Another version claims he used the helm to approach powerful enemies without detection. No single narrative survives intact. The mystery remains. Yet every version emphasizes the same idea. Hades becomes effective precisely because others overlook him. This theme follows him throughout life. Even later generations often focus more on Zeus and Poseidon. Yet beneath the surface, Hades continues shaping events. Quietly, patiently, effectively. One evening, after a successful mission, another strange sign appears. The sky above the battlefield clears unexpectedly. Stars emerge, thousands upon thousands of stars, bright enough to reflect upon distant waters. Ancient priests observing the heavens speak of unusual alignments, a favorable omen, a suggestion that fate is shifting. You stand beside Hades beneath that vast night sky. The air feels cool. The scent of sea salt drifts inland. Torches flicker in the distance. For a brief moment, the war seems far away. And perhaps Hades allows himself a rare thought. Hope, not certainty. Never certainty, but hope. The possibility that freedom may finally endure. The possibility that suffering may produce meaning. The possibility that the future could become something better than the past. Such thoughts matter, because they reveal another side of his character. Hades is often remembered as a god of death, Yet before becoming associated with endings, he spends much of his life pursuing stability, order, security, a world where fear no longer controls everything. The helm helps move that dream closer, but it also introduces a subtle question, a question that will follow him for centuries. What happens when someone becomes comfortable with invisibility? When someone learns to operate unseen? When someone discovers strength in isolation? The gift solves immediate problems, yet it may also reinforce traits already developing within him, traits that will eventually shape his reign, traits that will influence his relationships, traits that will contribute to both his wisdom and his loneliness. Ancient myths often work this way. Every blessing contains a shadow. Every gift carries consequences, and the helm of darkness is no exception. For now, however, the war continues. The Titans still stand. The future remains uncertain, yet momentum is changing. The hidden powers beneath the earth have joined the struggle. The younger gods possess new strength, and Hades has discovered a form of power uniquely his own, a power rooted not in thunder, not in waves, but in mystery. And soon, that mystery will help achieve victories that few witnesses will ever fully understand. Because some of the most important moments in history occur when no one is watching. The greatest victories are not always celebrated. No songs are written for many of them. No statues preserve their memory. No crowds gather to cheer. They happen quietly, beyond the reach of applause, beyond the reach of glory. And as the war against the Titans continues, Hades discovers that his path will often lead through such unseen places. You find yourself once again beneath a restless sky. Dark clouds drift across the heavens. The scent of rain hangs in the air. Far below, armies prepare for another clash. Bronze weapons catch flashes of distant lightning. Voices echo across rocky valleys. The earth itself seems tense, waiting, watching. The Titanomachy has entered a dangerous stage. The younger gods have gained powerful allies. They possess new weapons. They possess new confidence. Yet Cronus and his followers remain formidable. The outcome is still uncertain. Ancient traditions emphasize this uncertainty for a reason. A victory foretold too clearly becomes less meaningful. Destiny may point toward a future, but reaching that future still requires courage and sacrifice and choices. Hades understands this, perhaps better than anyone, because unlike Zeus, who often stands at the center of attention, Hades works in the shadows. The helm of darkness becomes his constant companion. Time and again he disappears from sight. You watch him place the ancient helm upon his head. The familiar sensation returns. Cool metal, sudden silence, the strange feeling of existing while unseen. Then he vanishes. Only footprints remain. Ancient storytellers imagined countless missions during this period. Some accounts survive only as fragments. Others appear briefly in later retellings. Yet together they reveal a consistent image. Hades becomes the unseen hand behind many successes. While great battles rage openly, he moves where others cannot. He observes enemy movements. He gathers knowledge. He creates opportunities. The work lacks spectacle. But without it, victories become much harder to achieve. The Greeks understood something important. Wisdom and strategy matter as much as strength, sometimes more, and Hades increasingly embodies that truth. One surviving tradition tells of a dangerous journey into a Titan-controlled stronghold. The details remain unclear, perhaps intentionally. Myths often preserve mystery where certainty has been lost. According to the story, Hades entered alone, invisible, silent. The halls were guarded, the walls were watched, yet he moved unnoticed. Torchlight flickered across stone corridors. The smell of smoke filled the air, footsteps echoed in distant chambers. And somewhere within those halls lay information capable of changing the course of battle. The mission succeeded. How exactly? Ancient sources disagree. The uncertainty itself becomes part of the legend. What matters is the result. Another small shift in momentum, another thread woven into the larger tapestry of victory. Yet such achievements create an interesting problem. Few people see them. Few understand them. Recognition flows elsewhere. Toward thunderbolts, toward dramatic confrontations, toward visible displays of power. Hades rarely complains. Still, the pattern matters, because it contributes to something slowly growing within him, a certain distance from others, a certain acceptance of solitude. You can imagine him returning from these missions, the helm removed, the night air cool against his face, the sounds of celebration nearby, others recounting victories, others receiving praise, and Hades simply listening, content perhaps, yet separate, not excluded, not forgotten, simply different. Ancient audiences may have recognized the emotional complexity. Many people know what it means to contribute without recognition, to work quietly while others stand in the spotlight, to help build success without becoming its symbol. The story resonates because it feels human, even though its characters are divine. One evening, as the war drags onward, an unusual dream comes to Hades. Dreams carry enormous significance in Greek mythology. They often serve as bridges between mortal understanding and divine intention. Not every dream contains prophecy, but some do. This dream begins in darkness. Familiar darkness, the same darkness that surrounded his earliest years. Yet something has changed. Instead of imprisonment, he sees a vast kingdom, a realm beneath the earth, rivers flowing through shadow, countless lights flickering in the distance, not frightening, not chaotic, ordered, silent, waiting. At the center stands a throne, empty, ancient, patient. When Hades approaches, the vision dissolves. He awakens before dawn. Cold air surrounds him. Stars still fill the sky. The dream lingers, unsettling, mysterious, difficult to interpret. Ancient seers would likely have debated its meaning. Was it prophecy? Was it symbolism? Was it merely the mind processing years of struggle? No answer survives, and perhaps none ever existed. Yet the image remains important. For the first time, the future seems to whisper directly to him. Not clearly, never clearly, but enough to raise questions. Questions that will follow him long after the war ends. What role awaits him? What kingdom does destiny intend? And why does the vision feel strangely familiar? The uncertainty deepens. Meanwhile, the conflict intensifies. The 100-handed ones unleash terrifying strength against the Titans. Mountains tremble. The sea churns. The sky flashes with relentless light. Ancient poets describe entire landscapes transformed by the struggle. Yet beneath these grand events, quieter stories continue unfolding. Stories like Hades, stories of endurance, stories of unseen effort, stories of gradual transformation. Because war changes everyone, including gods. The child who once endured helpless imprisonment now influences the fate of creation. The difference is remarkable, and yet traces of the old Hades remain. He still observes carefully. He still values patience. He still prefers action over boasting. The years inside darkness continue shaping him. Past choices continue influencing the present, just as the myths insist they should. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing disappears completely. The consequences remain. One night, shortly before a major turning point in the war, another omen appears. This time it is witnessed by many. A shooting star crosses the heavens. Brilliant, unusually bright. It streaks across the sky above both armies. Silence follows. Even warriors pause. Even titans look upward. The Greeks often interpreted such events as messages, signs that fate was moving. Signs that change approached, signs that no power, however mighty, could resist destiny forever. Different observers draw different conclusions. That is the nature of omens. They reveal possibilities rather than certainties, yet one feeling spreads through the younger gods. The end is approaching, not immediately, not tomorrow, but soon. And Hades senses it too. The war that has consumed so much of his life may finally be nearing resolution. The possibility brings relief, but also uncertainty, because when a struggle ends, another question emerges. What comes next? For Zeus, answers seem obvious. For Poseidon, possibilities stretch toward the sea. For Hades, the future remains hidden, like a distant shoreline concealed by fog, like a path visible only in fragments, like the mysterious kingdom from his dream. The answers wait beyond the horizon. And destiny has not yet revealed them. Not yet, but the consequences of victory are already beginning to gather. And soon, the cosmos itself will be divided. At last, the war ends. Not suddenly, not with a single strike, but with the slow certainty of a storm finally exhausting itself. The years of conflict draw to a close. The Titans fall. The old order breaks. And for the first time since the beginning of the story, silence returns to the world. You stand beside Hades upon a high ridge overlooking a transformed landscape. The air smells clean after rain. Mist drifts across distant valleys. The sea glitters beneath sunlight. Birds once again cross peaceful skies. The earth itself seems relieved. Ancient poets often described the end of the Titanomachy as a moment of cosmic renewal. The violence fades. The uncertainty lifts. A new age begins. Yet endings always create new questions. And one question now stands before the victorious gods. Who will rule what? The Titans are defeated. Their power has been broken. The cosmos remains vast, too vast for a single ruler. The heavens stretch endlessly above. The seas cover enormous distances. The lands of the earth teem with future possibilities. Order must be established. Responsibilities must be assigned. And so the three brothers gather. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades. The sons once imprisoned by fear now hold the fate of creation in their hands. The symbolism would not have been lost on ancient listeners. The children swallowed by a tyrant have become architects of a new world. Yet even now uncertainty remains, because no one knows what destiny intends. Ancient traditions tell us that the brothers decide to cast lots. A simple act, a seemingly fair method. No brother chooses directly. No brother claims superiority. Instead, chance or perhaps fate makes the decision. The distinction is important, because Greek mythology often blurs the line between the two. Was it random, or was some deeper force guiding the outcome? Historians continue to debate how ancient audiences understood this moment. The mystery survives, and perhaps it always will. You imagine the scene. The sky above is clear. The scent of olive wood rises from a nearby sacred fire. The breeze feels cool against sun-warmed stone. The three brothers stand together, watching, waiting. The lots are cast. The future is chosen. Zeus receives the heavens, Poseidon receives the sea, and Hades receives the realm beneath the earth, the underworld. For a moment everything changes, and yet nothing does, at least not immediately. Many modern retellings portray this event as a punishment, an exile, a loss. Yet ancient Greek views were often more complex. The underworld was not merely a place of suffering, it was an essential part of existence. Every mortal would eventually arrive there. Every hero, every king, every farmer, every poet, every beloved child, every forgotten stranger. The realm of the dead touched every life. To govern such a kingdom was not a small responsibility. It was enormous. Still, responsibility does not always feel like reward. You stand beside Hades as the reality settles upon him. The heavens belong to Zeus. Bright, open, magnificent. The sea belongs to Poseidon. Powerful, restless, alive with movement. And his own kingdom, a place of shadows, a place hidden from sunlight, a place most beings fear. The irony is difficult to ignore. The child raised in darkness receives a kingdom of darkness. The survivor of confinement inherits a realm beneath the earth. Some ancient storytellers may have viewed this as destiny completing a circle. Others may have seen tragedy. Perhaps both interpretations contain truth, because life often contains both. One surviving tradition suggests that Hades accepted the outcome calmly. Another implies disappointment. Neither version can be proven. And perhaps the answer lies somewhere between them. Acceptance does not erase sorrow. Duty does not eliminate loneliness. You can understand the complexity. Hades is not losing a war. He is not being punished. Yet he is moving farther from the world of sunlight, farther from the skies he only recently discovered, farther from the freedom he waited so long to experience. The emotional weight of that reality cannot be ignored. Ancient myths rarely portray him complaining. That silence itself tells us something. Instead of resisting fate, Hades begins considering what must come next. How does one govern the dead? What laws should exist? What boundaries must be established? The questions are immense. No one has ruled such a kingdom before. No model exists, no tradition provides easy answers. For perhaps the first time, Hades faces a challenge uniquely his own. Not Zeus's challenge, not Poseidon's, his. This moment marks a profound shift in his character. During the war, he helped shape events. Now he must shape a world. Responsibility replaces conflict. Leadership replaces survival. The transformation begins quietly, as most important transformations do. That night, after the lots have been cast, another mysterious sign appears. The stars shine unusually bright. Ancient observers later claimed certain constellations seemed to form unfamiliar patterns. Whether this truly occurred or emerged through later storytelling remains uncertain. What matters is how the sign was understood, a reminder that destiny had not finished speaking. The future remained unwritten. You walk with Hades beneath the vast night sky. The air is cool. Crickets sing in distant grasses. The scent of earth rises after evening dew. Above, countless stars shimmer. Below, somewhere unseen, waits the kingdom he must soon claim. A kingdom no living god fully understands. A kingdom filled with mysteries, ancient rivers, forgotten souls, unexplored depths. The unknown can inspire excitement. It can also inspire fear, and perhaps Hades feels both. The Greeks often portrayed courage, not as the absence of fear, but as movement despite it. If so, Hades shows courage here, because he accepts a future he cannot fully see. Many heroes fight monsters. Many kings conquer cities. Hades must do something more difficult. He must descend willingly into uncertainty. Another consequence emerges from this decision. The relationship between the brothers begins changing. During the war, they fought side by side. Shared purpose united them. Now distance grows. Not hostility, not rivalry. Distance. Zeus will dwell in the heavens. Poseidon in the sea. Hades beneath the earth. The family survives. Yet separation becomes inevitable. This pattern will shape much of his later life. A king, a brother, and increasingly an outsider. The transition happens slowly, almost imperceptibly, but it has begun. Far below, the future kingdom waits. Its gates remain unopened. Its mysteries remain hidden. Its ruler has not yet arrived. Yet somewhere in the depths, ancient forces stir. Rivers flow through unseen caverns. Shadows gather in forgotten halls, and destiny prepares to welcome Hades into the realm that will define his name forever. Whether that realm is a blessing or a burden remains uncertain. Perhaps it is both, but soon he will discover the answer for himself. The journey begins with a descent, not a fall, not an exile, a descent. There is a difference. Falls happen against one's will. Descents require a choice, and now Hades chooses. You stand beside him at the edge of a world few gods have ever explored. Behind him lies the familiar realm of sunlight, the blue sky, the sea breeze, the distant songs of birds. Ahead lies something entirely different, a kingdom hidden beneath creation itself, a kingdom waiting for its first true ruler. The moment feels strangely quiet. After years of war, one might expect trumpets, celebrations, great processions. Instead, there is silence. Only the sound of wind moving through rocky cliffs. Only the scent of earth rising from unseen depths. Only the awareness that everything is about to change. Ancient storytellers understood that some of life's most important moments arrive softly. A door opens, a path begins, and nothing is ever quite the same again. Hades takes his first steps downward. You follow. The sunlight gradually fades behind you. The air grows cooler. The scent of stone becomes stronger. Shadows lengthen across the passage ahead. Yet this is not a place of immediate terror. That is an important distinction. Later generations often imagined the underworld as a realm of punishment alone. Ancient Greek beliefs were more nuanced. The kingdom of the dead was not simply a prison. It was a destination, a necessary part of existence, a place where souls continued after life had ended. The Greeks feared death, but they also accepted its inevitability. And now Hades enters the realm that embodies that truth. The deeper you travel, the stranger the landscape becomes. The passage opens into vast caverns. Ancient rock formations rise like silent towers. Underground rivers wind through darkness. The sound of flowing water echoes endlessly through the distance. A faint mist drifts across the ground. The air feels still, almost sacred. You can imagine Hades pausing, observing, listening. The future king studies his kingdom, not with conquest in mind, with responsibility. This difference matters. Throughout mythology, Hades rarely behaves like a conqueror. He behaves like a guardian, a steward, a ruler tasked with maintaining balance. The seeds of that role begin appearing immediately. The underworld is not empty. Ancient beings already dwell here. Spirits move through the shadows. Primeval powers linger in forgotten corners. Old rivers carve paths through darkness older than memory. Some traditions describe mysterious figures greeting Hades upon his arrival. Others remain silent on the matter. The uncertainty leaves room for imagination. Perhaps he entered alone. Perhaps ancient forces watched from hidden places. No one can know for certain. But one thing is clear. The kingdom recognizes its new ruler. A subtle feeling spreads through the realm, as though long-abandoned halls are awakening, as though ancient doors are slowly opening, as though destiny itself is settling into place. Yet destiny does not erase loneliness. You walk beside Hades through immense caverns illuminated by strange pale light. The glow comes from no visible sun, no visible fire. It simply exists. Soft, quiet, eternal. The beauty of the realm surprises him. Perhaps it surprises you as well. Because the underworld contains more than darkness. It contains stillness, reflection, mystery. Ancient rivers flow through its depths. Among them is the River Styx, a boundary both sacred and feared. Its waters move silently through shadow. The surface reflects faint glimmers of light. Ancient oaths sworn upon the Styx carried enormous power. Even gods respected its authority. As Hades observes these waters, he begins understanding the nature of his kingdom. This is not merely a place. It is a system, a balance, a sacred order requiring protection. Every realm reflects its ruler, and every ruler is shaped by their realm. The relationship works both ways. The underworld begins influencing Hades just as he begins influencing it. The transformation has started. Further within the kingdom, other rivers wait. Acheron, Cocytus, Phlegethon. Ancient traditions describe each differently, some with sorrow, some with fire, some with mystery. The geography varies between myths. The symbolism remains consistent. The underworld contains many paths, many experiences, many destinies, just as life itself does. One evening, as Hades explores these depths, a strange omen appears. A dream. Not the first dream of his life, but perhaps the most significant so far. In the vision, he walks through an endless field beneath a twilight sky. The air feels warm. Flowers move gently in the breeze. Far away, a figure stands among the blossoms. A young woman. Unclear. Distant. The closer he approaches, the farther she seems. Then the dream ends. Abruptly, leaving only questions. Ancient audiences would immediately recognize the significance. Dreams rarely arrive without purpose. Yet purpose does not guarantee clarity. Who is the figure? Why does she appear? What role will she play? No answers emerge, only mystery. The Greeks loved such moments. Fate revealing fragments while concealing the whole. A glimpse, a whisper, a promise not yet understood. When Hades awakens, the dream lingers, not as certainty, as curiosity. The image refuses to fade completely, and somewhere beyond his knowledge, destiny is already moving, far above the earth, far beyond the boundaries of his kingdom. A future relationship begins approaching, though neither participant knows it yet. Meanwhile, practical concerns demand attention. A kingdom cannot govern itself. Rules must be established, boundaries defined. Ancient traditions suggest Hades begins organizing the realm carefully, methodically. The same patience that helped him survive imprisonment now serves a new purpose. Order, structure, stability. The qualities continue evolving. Past experiences continue shaping present choices. The consequence chain remains unbroken. Nothing in his life exists in isolation. The years of darkness taught endurance. The war taught responsibility. Now the kingdom teaches leadership. Step by step, lesson by lesson. Transformation continues. Yet loneliness remains close. That theme has not disappeared. In some ways, it has deepened. The heavens are filled with gods. The seas teem with movement. The underworld is different, quieter, more distant. The separation from his siblings becomes increasingly real. Zeus rules above. Poseidon commands the oceans. Hades governs below. The brothers remain connected, yet their worlds grow farther apart. You can almost feel the distance, like stars visible in the same sky but separated by vast emptiness. Ancient myths rarely portray Hades as bitter about this, but neither do they ignore it. His kingdom offers purpose. Purpose does not always eliminate solitude. One can exist beside the other. As time passes, Hades continues shaping the realm. Ancient halls become centers of governance. Sacred boundaries gain meaning. The foundations of the future underworld begin taking form. A kingdom is emerging, and so is a king. The frightened child swallowed by fear feels increasingly distant. The silent prisoner of darkness feels increasingly distant. In their place stands something new, a ruler learning the weight of responsibility, a guardian discovering his purpose. Yet destiny remains unfinished. The mysterious woman from the dream remains unknown. The future still holds unanswered questions. And somewhere beyond the world below, fate is already preparing the encounter that will transform Hades' life more profoundly than any war ever could. But that meeting belongs to another chapter. For now, the king walks alone through his growing kingdom, listening to ancient rivers. Chazal, watching pale lights shimmer across silent waters, and wondering what future awaits in the shadows beyond sight. The kingdom exists, but it is not yet complete. A crown alone cannot create a realm. A throne alone cannot establish order. A ruler must shape the world entrusted to him. And so Hades begins the greatest work of his life. Not a war, not a conquest, a construction. You walk beside him through the vast expanses of the underworld. The air remains cool and still. Ancient rivers continue their endless journeys through shadow. Soft mist drifts across distant plains. Far overhead, unseen ceilings disappear into darkness. The kingdom feels immense, almost beyond measure, and every part of it requires attention. The challenge is unlike anything Hades has faced before. In war, the goal is clear: victory. In leadership, clarity becomes harder to find. Every decision creates consequences. Every choice influences countless others. The responsibility never truly ends. This reality begins shaping Hades more deeply than any battlefield ever could. The ancient Greeks understood leadership as a burden as much as a privilege. Their myths return to this theme repeatedly. Power brings obligations. Authority demands sacrifice. And no ruler escapes those costs. Least of all Hades. At first, the realm resembles a wilderness. Not chaotic, not hostile, simply unfinished. The rivers flow where they always have. Ancient spirits wander uncertain paths. Old powers occupy forgotten territories. Nothing connects into a coherent whole. Nothing provides structure. The kingdom needs order, and Hades knows something about order. After all, disorder created the suffering of his earliest life. Fear created chaos. Chaos created imprisonment. The lessons remain with him. You watch him move through the realm thoughtfully, patiently, observing before acting. The same habits formed during years of silence continue guiding him. Many rulers impose their will immediately. Hades does something different. He studies, he listens, he learns. The underworld becomes his teacher. This approach surprises some ancient traditions. Modern audiences often imagine powerful gods commanding instant obedience. Greek mythology is rarely that simple. Wisdom requires understanding, and understanding requires time. One of the first challenges involves the souls themselves. Mortals die every day, even in the earliest ages of the world. Hunters perish. Sailors vanish beneath waves. Children succumb to illness. Kings meet inevitable endings. Every soul arrives somewhere. Every soul needs guidance. Without structure, confusion spreads. Ancient stories suggest that Hades begins establishing pathways through the kingdom, routes, boundaries, destinations. Not all souls experienced the same fate. The Greeks believed lives differed. Choices mattered. Honor mattered. Actions mattered. The underworld gradually reflects these distinctions. Some areas become places of peace, others become places of consequence. The kingdom grows more organized, more purposeful, more just, and justice increasingly becomes central to Hades' identity. This development is important. Many later cultures imagine rulers of the dead as cruel. The Greek image of Hades is often more restrained. He is not primarily a punisher. He is primarily a governor, a keeper of balance, a protector of boundaries. The difference matters. One evening, while exploring a distant region of his kingdom, Hades encounters another omen. The signs never disappear entirely from Greek mythology. Destiny continues speaking through symbols. Tonight, the sign arrives through fire. A solitary flame burns within a cavern untouched by any hand. No wood feeds it, no oil sustains it, yet it burns steadily, quietly, patiently. You stand beside Hades as he watches the strange light. The cavern remains silent. The scent of stone surrounds you. The flame casts gentle reflections across dark walls. Ancient seers might have interpreted the vision in many ways. Perhaps it symbolizes endurance, perhaps responsibility, perhaps the eternal nature of the realm itself. No explanation survives, only the image and the feeling it leaves behind. A reminder that some mysteries are meant to accompany rather than explain us. The kingdom continues evolving. Soon, another important figure enters the story. Not a god, not a titan, a ferryman. The ancient boatman known as Charon. His origins vary across traditions. Some myths provide little detail. Others offer fragments. What remains consistent is his role. He guides souls across the waters, separating life from death. Hades recognizes the necessity immediately. No ruler governs alone. Even divine kings require trusted servants, trusted guardians, trusted companions. The relationship between Hades and Charon develops gradually, not through dramatic speeches, not through grand declarations, through shared purpose. A recurring theme in Hades' life. The underworld attracts those who value duty over attention, responsibility over glory. The kingdom begins reflecting that mindset. Ancient gates appear. Sacred boundaries gain meaning. The rivers become more than natural features. They become symbols, transitions, thresholds. The Greeks viewed death itself as a crossing, a movement from one state into another, and Hades becomes guardian of that crossing. Meanwhile, far above Olympus flourishes. The heavens fill with celebrations. The gods feast. Music echoes through marble halls. Golden light shines across celestial palaces. You can imagine the contrast. The warmth of Olympus, the stillness of the underworld, the laughter above, the silence below. The separation deepens, not through conflict, through circumstance. Hades does not envy Zeus exactly, yet moments of distance remain unavoidable. Ancient myths often portray him visiting Olympus less frequently than other gods. His responsibilities anchor him below. The kingdom always requires attention. Souls continue arriving. Judgments continue. Order must be maintained. The burden never sleeps. The consequence of accepting his realm becomes increasingly clear. Unlike the heavens, unlike the sea, the underworld cannot be neglected. Even briefly, every mortal life eventually touches it. Every mortal destiny eventually passes through its gates. The scale of responsibility is almost unimaginable. And Hades accepts it, day after day, year after year, without complaint, without fanfare. Some researchers believe this explains why ancient Greeks sometimes respected Hades more than later interpretations suggest. He performs a necessary role, a difficult role, a role few others would willingly embrace. The symbolism runs deep. Every society depends upon people willing to perform essential tasks without praise. Hades becomes the divine embodiment of that principle. Yet leadership alone cannot satisfy every need. The kingdom grows, the responsibilities grow, the purpose grows, but something else remains unchanged. Loneliness. You notice it in quiet moments, when the rivers flow softly through darkness, when distant lights flicker across silent waters, when no voices interrupt the stillness. The realm is populated, yet companionship remains rare. Purpose fills much of his life, not all of it. Ancient myths understand this distinction. A ruler can possess authority and still feel alone. A A king can command a kingdom and still long for connection. The theme slowly grows stronger, like a distant melody becoming easier to hear, and fate seems aware of it. The mysterious dream from earlier has not entirely faded. The image of the young woman among flowers still lingers, occasionally, unexpectedly, like a memory of something that has not happened yet, like a promise waiting beyond the horizon. The Greeks often portrayed destiny this way, not as a sudden event, as a gradual approach, a thread moving slowly toward its place in the tapestry. And somewhere above the earth, beneath open skies and fields of blossoms, another life is unfolding, a life that will soon alter everything. For now, however, Hades continues building, stone by stone, law by law, choice by choice. The kingdom grows stronger, the ruler grows wiser. And beneath the earth, in halls illuminated by eternal shadows, the foundations of a legend quietly take shape. Yet destiny has not finished its work, not even close. Years pass in the underworld, then decades, then centuries. For gods, time moves differently. Yet even immortals can feel its weight, especially when they spend much of it alone. You walk beside Hades through halls that have now become familiar. The kingdom is no longer unfinished. Its laws endure, its rivers follow ancient courses, its gates stand watch over the boundary between life and death. The great work of creation has succeeded. The realm functions, the balance holds, and yet something remains absent, something difficult to define. The air is cool tonight. Soft, pale light reflects from dark waters. Far away, the River Styx moves in silence. The scent of stone and damp earth lingers throughout the vast halls. Everything appears stable. Everything appears complete. But appearances can deceive. Ancient storytellers understood this well. A kingdom can flourish while a king struggles. A throne can stand secure while the heart remains uncertain. And Hades is beginning to discover that responsibility cannot answer every human or divine need. He possesses power. He possesses purpose. He possesses authority over one of the greatest realms in existence. Yet when the work of the day ends, silence remains. The silence becomes increasingly noticeable. At first, he barely recognizes it. There is always another judgment, another soul arriving, another matter demanding attention. But over time, quieter moments begin to emerge. Moments when the rivers continue flowing without interruption. Moments when no petitions arrive. Moments when the kingdom settles into stillness. In those moments, loneliness becomes harder to ignore. Ancient myths rarely portray Hades speaking openly about such feelings. That restraint itself reveals something about his character. Unlike many gods, he does not broadcast his desires. He does not demand sympathy. He simply endures. The same patience that carried him through imprisonment now carries him through solitude. Yet endurance is not the same as happiness. You can sense the difference. One evening, Hades leaves his palace and walks alone through a distant region of the underworld. The landscape stretches endlessly before him. Shadowed meadows, ancient groves, silent paths illuminated by strange silver light. The beauty surprises you. The underworld contains far more than darkness. It contains reflection, memory, stillness. The kingdom mirrors its ruler in many ways. Quiet, reserved, deep. As he walks, an unusual thought enters his mind. A simple thought. A dangerous thought. What if this is forever? Not the kingdom, the loneliness. The question lingers. Many rulers throughout mythology possess companions, partners, families. Zeus surrounds himself with relationships. Poseidon forms countless connections across land and sea. Even lesser gods often share their lives with others. Hades remains apart, partly by circumstance, partly by duty, partly because few willingly travel to the realm of the dead. The separation grows gradually, almost invisibly, until one day it becomes impossible to ignore. Ancient audiences likely understood this feeling well. Many people know what it means to devote themselves to responsibility, to place duty first, to discover years later that something personal has been left behind. The story resonates because it feels deeply human, even though the figure at its center is immortal. One night a dream returns, the same dream, or perhaps a continuation of it. Dreams rarely obey ordinary rules. You stand beside Hades within the vision. A field stretches toward the horizon. The sky glows with the colours of late afternoon. Golden light moves across countless flowers. Warm air carries their fragrance. The scene feels almost impossibly alive. At the centre stands the young woman once again. Closer this time, though her features remain difficult to see. She turns slightly, as if aware of his presence. Then a wind passes through the field. The flowers bend. The vision dissolves. Hades awakens. The dream leaves behind an unusual feeling. Not sorrow, not fear, expectation. The Greeks often believed dreams could reveal possibilities, not fix futures. Possibilities, paths toward which fate might be guiding events. The image refuses to disappear. And somewhere in the world above, another story is unfolding. A young goddess walks through sunlit fields. She gathers flowers. She laughs beneath open skies. She knows nothing of the king below, nothing of the dreams, nothing of the future approaching both of them. Her name is Persephone, but Hades does not know that yet. For now, she remains only a mystery, a shadow within a dream. Meanwhile, the kingdom continues demanding attention. The responsibilities never cease. New souls arrive each day. Some come peacefully, others arrive confused. Some cling desperately to memories of life. Others accept their journey with quiet dignity. Watching them teaches Hades something unexpected. Mortality, not because he experiences it himself, because he witnesses it endlessly. Every human life eventually reaches his gates. Every human story concludes somewhere within his realm. Kings, farmers, sailors, poets, children, warriors. The differences that seemed so important above often appear smaller here. Death becomes a great equalizer. The lesson shapes Hades profoundly. Over time, he develops a deeper understanding of existence than many other gods. Zeus governs the heavens. Poseidon governs the sea. Hades governs endings, and endings reveal truths that beginnings often conceal. This growing wisdom becomes one of his defining traits. Ancient Greeks sometimes feared Hades, yet they also recognized his fairness, his perspective, his understanding of realities others preferred to ignore. The lonely king is becoming a wise king. The two developments occur together, as often happens in mythology and in life. One afternoon, another omen appears. This time, it arrives through nature. A cluster of white flowers suddenly blooms in a region of the underworld where nothing similar has ever grown. The sight is startling. Their petals shine softly against the shadowed landscape. Their fragrance drifts through the cool air. No explanation exists, no obvious cause. Ancient seers would have immediately searched for meaning. Flowers often symbolize transition, renewal, love, destiny. Hades studies them quietly. The image stirs memories of the recurring dream. The field, the sunlight, the unknown woman. Questions multiply, answers remain distant. Yet fate feels closer than before. The kingdom seems to sense it as well. The atmosphere changes subtly, like air before rainfall, like the sea before a storm. Nothing dramatic, just possibility. The feeling that unseen forces are moving. Ancient myths often prepare important events this way, not with sudden surprises, with gradual approach, a thread tightening, a path narrowing, a future drawing near. And Hades, despite all his wisdom, does not fully recognize what is coming. How could he? The encounter waiting ahead will transform his life. It will alter the seasons, challenge gods, change the relationship between heaven, earth, and the underworld. Most importantly, it will challenge the loneliness that has accompanied him for so long. For now, however, he remains the solitary king, walking beside silent rivers, listening to distant waters, watching mysterious flowers bloom where no flowers should grow, and wondering why destiny seems to be whispering through dreams. Somewhere far above spring is beginning, and fate is already moving toward him through fields of blossoms and sunlight. Far above the underworld, spring has arrived. The earth awakens beneath warm sunlight. Wildflowers spread across hillsides. Olive groves shimmer beneath gentle breezes. Birdsong drifts through valleys filled with new life. The world feels bright, open, alive, and somewhere within that world walks Persephone. You find yourself beneath a clear sky. The scent of flowers fills the air. Bees move lazily between blossoms. Soft grass bends beneath wandering feet. Everything seems peaceful. Everything seems ordinary. Yet mythology often reminds us that destiny prefers ordinary moments. The greatest changes rarely announce themselves. They simply arrive. Persephone is young, radiant, beloved, the daughter of Demeter, whose power nourishes fields and orchards across the earth. Ancient traditions describe Persephone in many ways. Some emphasize innocence, others highlight strength hidden beneath gentleness. Still others portray her as a figure already connected to mysteries deeper than anyone realizes. The different versions survive together, each revealing a slightly different truth. For now, however, she walks among flowers, unaware that her life stands upon the edge of transformation. And far below, Hades continues ruling his kingdom. The dream has not returned for several nights. The mysterious woman remains only a memory, a lingering question, a possibility never explained. The underworld remains calm. Its rivers flow steadily. Its laws endure. Its ruler fulfills his duties. Yet somewhere within him, a quiet restlessness has begun. Not dissatisfaction, not unhappiness, something more subtle. The sense that a chapter is nearing its conclusion. Ancient storytellers often place such feelings before major events. The soul sensing change before the mind understands it. Like distant thunder beyond the horizon, like a tide beginning to turn. The signs exist. The meaning remains hidden. One day, according to the most familiar tradition, Hades emerges from the underworld and travels across the earth. The reasons vary depending upon the source. Some myths provide no explanation. Others suggest he was inspecting lands under his authority. Another interpretation survives in which fate itself guides his movements. No certainty exists, only possibility. You walk beside him beneath the open sky. The sunlight feels warm. The scent of spring surrounds everything. For a moment, the king of the dead seems almost out of place among so much life. Yet perhaps that contrast is exactly the point. Death and life have always been connected. The Greeks understood this better than many later cultures. Seeds disappear beneath the earth before they grow. Winter gives way to spring. Endings create beginnings. The cycle never truly stops. And so Hades moves through a landscape bursting with renewal. Then he sees her. The moment itself is surprisingly quiet. No thunder shakes the heavens. No prophecy announces itself. No divine voice explains what is happening. A glance, a single glance, and everything changes. Persephone stands among flowers. Golden sunlight surrounds her. The breeze moves gently through her hair. The scent of blossoms fills the air. The image feels strangely familiar, because Hades has seen it before. Not in life, in dreams. The realization strikes like a sudden revelation. The field, the flowers, the unknown figure, the recurring visions. Ancient audiences would immediately recognize the significance. The mysterious signs are beginning to reveal their meaning. Yet meaning does not eliminate uncertainty. Far from it, because what follows remains one of the most debated stories in all Greek mythology. Ancient traditions disagree. Some emphasize force, others suggest divine arrangement. Still others portray complex layers of fate, consent, and transformation. Historians continue debating these interpretations today. The myths themselves preserve multiple perspectives, and perhaps that complexity is unavoidable, because relationships are rarely simple, especially those involving gods. What seems clear is this: Hades feels something he has not experienced before. Connection, recognition. The loneliness that has followed him for centuries suddenly encounters an alternative. The possibility of companionship, the possibility of understanding, the possibility of love. Whether he fully understands these feelings is another question entirely. Ancient myths rarely present gods as emotionally transparent. Like mortals, they often struggle to interpret their own hearts, especially when powerful emotions first appear. One version of the story claims Hades immediately sought guidance from Zeus. Another suggests secret discussions occurred among the gods. A third leaves the matter ambiguous. The uncertainty remains. What survives across traditions is a sense of inevitability, as though countless threads of destiny have finally converged. You can feel it in the atmosphere. The world itself seems suspended between possibilities. A choice approaches, and that choice will affect everyone. Not only Hades, not only Persephone, everyone. Meanwhile, Persephone continues her life above. The contrast between their worlds remains profound. She lives among sunlight. He rules beneath the earth. She moves through fields of flowers. He governs rivers of shadow. She is surrounded by life. He is surrounded by death. At first glance, they appear opposite in every way. Yet Greek mythology often unites opposites. Day and night, summer and winter, sea and sky, life and death. The deeper truth usually lies in balance rather than separation. Perhaps the same principle applies here. One evening, shortly after their encounter, another omen appears. This time, it arrives through the earth itself. Flowers bloom unusually early across several regions. Sacred groves produce strange abundance. Priests report vivid dreams. Farmers speak of unexplained signs in their fields. The Greeks paid close attention to such events. Nature often reflected divine movements, and nature now seems restless, expectant, waiting. Demeter notices some of these signs, though their meaning remains unclear. Mothers in mythology often sense approaching change before others do. Whether through wisdom or intuition, they recognize disturbances in familiar patterns. A subtle tension begins forming, the first shadow across a peaceful landscape, the first hint of future conflict. Hades senses it too. Not danger exactly, consequence. The awareness that important choices carry costs. He has learned this lesson many times already. The war taught it, leadership taught it, responsibility taught it. Every meaningful action creates ripples. The question is never whether consequences will come. The question is whether they can be accepted. And soon Hades will face that challenge more directly than ever before. For now, however, the memory remains. A field of flowers, a face among sunlight, a dream stepping into reality. The lonely king has finally encountered the figure who haunted his visions. Yet destiny has only revealed the beginning, not the ending, because the path ahead leads toward one of the most consequential decisions in Greek mythology, a decision that will alter seasons, test relationships, challenge gods, and force Hades to confront the difference between desire and responsibility. The flowers continue blooming, the signs continue gathering, and somewhere beyond sight, fate prepares to open a doorway between worlds. The moment arrives quietly, as important moments often do. A field of flowers, a warm spring afternoon, sunlight spreading across the earth. Nothing in the landscape suggests that the balance of the world is about to change. Yet fate rarely announces itself. You stand among the blossoms beside Persephone. The air is rich with fragrance. Wildflowers sway beneath a gentle breeze. Bees drift lazily from flower to flower. The sky above is brilliantly blue. Everything appears peaceful. And then the earth opens. Ancient storytellers describe this moment in different ways. Some portray it as sudden and terrifying. Others suggest a deeper involvement of divine planning. Still others preserve versions in which the boundaries between choice destiny and divine will remain difficult to separate. The disagreements survive. They always have. Historians continue debating them, yet all traditions agree on one thing. This event changes everything. The ground parts. A chariot emerges. Dark horses surge upward from the depths. Their hooves strike stone. Their breath rises like mist. And at the reins stands Hades, the king of the underworld, the lonely ruler who spent centuries watching from below, the god who once dreamed of a woman standing among flowers, the god who now reaches toward that dream. Ancient audiences understood immediately that this was not simply a meeting between two individuals. It was a collision between worlds, life and death, spring and shadow, above and below. The consequences would extend far beyond either participant. You can almost hear the sound, the crack of opening earth, the frightened cries of companions, the thunder of hooves, the sudden rush of wind. Everything happens quickly, too quickly, and then Persephone is gone. The field remains, the flowers remain, the sunlight remains. Yet something essential has vanished. Silence follows. A strange silence, the kind that often arrives after great shocks. Far below, the chariot descends toward the underworld. The world above begins searching for answers, and the world below prepares for a transformation no one fully understands. Ancient myths rarely portray Hades as acting out of simple cruelty. The story is more complicated than that. Much more. He believes he is moving toward companionship, toward connection, toward the fulfillment of something destiny itself has suggested through dreams and omens. Yet good intentions do not erase consequences. This becomes one of the central lessons of his life. Desire alone cannot justify action. Even kings must answer for the effects of their choices. And the effects begin immediately. Above the earth, Demeter searches, day after day, night after night. The goddess of harvest wanders the world. You walk beside her through forests and valleys. The scent of pine fills the air. Moonlight filters through ancient trees. Cold dew gathers on grass before dawn. Yet no answers appear. Only absence. Only uncertainty. The pain deepens. Ancient listeners understood Demeter's grief instinctively. Because grief transforms perception, the world remains the same. Yet everything feels different. The sky still shines. The rivers still flow. The fields still grow. Yet none of it matters. Not while her daughter remains missing. Demeter's sorrow begins changing the earth itself. The transformation occurs gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. Flowers bloom less brightly. Harvests weaken. The warmth of spring fades. Leaves lose colour. The fertile abundance that once defined the world begins withdrawing. Ancient Greece depended upon agriculture. The symbolism would have felt powerful and immediate. A grieving mother becomes a grieving world. The connection resonates deeply. Meanwhile, in the underworld, another transformation unfolds. Persephone arrives within the realm below. The kingdom that once felt silent now feels different. The halls seem less empty. The rivers seem less lonely. The eternal stillness begins changing. You walk beside Hades as he observes these shifts. The emotions are complex. Hope, relief, uncertainty, perhaps even happiness. Yet another feeling remains close behind. Doubt. Because companionship gained through disruption carries its own burdens. The Greeks rarely portrayed life as morally simple. Their myths often explore tensions rather than resolutions. This story embodies that tradition perfectly. Nothing is entirely dark. Nothing is entirely bright. Every action contains layers. Every choice carries weight. Persephone herself becomes central to this complexity. Ancient traditions disagree about her experience. Some emphasize fear and loss. Others highlight gradual adaptation. Still others focus on transformation, not as a victim alone, not as a queen alone, but as someone becoming something new. The variety of interpretations reflects the depth of the myth. Human experiences rarely fit into simple categories. Neither do divine ones. As days pass, the underworld changes around her. The pale lights reflecting on dark waters. The cool air moving through vast caverns. The strange beauty hidden beneath the earth. What once seemed alien slowly becomes familiar. Not comfortable, not yet, but familiar. And familiarity possesses its own power. Above the crisis worsens. Demeter's search continues without success. The earth suffers. Fields wither. Orchards fail. Seeds remain dormant. The scent of fertile soil disappears. Cold winds arrive unexpectedly. The balance of nature begins collapsing. Mortals grow afraid, hungry, confused. Ancient priests report troubling omens. Sacred fires burn strangely. Bird migrations change. Dreams become unsettling. The world itself seems wounded. You can feel the tension spreading through creation. Every choice produces consequences. Now those consequences are touching everyone, not only gods, everyone. This realization matters because Hades has always taken responsibility seriously. From the moment he accepted the underworld, duty became central to his identity. Now duty collides with desire. The conflict is unavoidable. He wanted companionship. He wanted connection. Yet the path chosen has created suffering elsewhere. The lesson is painful and necessary. One evening, a new omen appears. The River Styx grows unusually still. Its waters, normally in constant motion, become mirror-like, silent. motionless. Ancient observers would have recognized this immediately as a sign, a warning, a reminder that balance has been disturbed. Hades studies the river carefully. The reflection staring back at him feels unfamiliar, not because his appearance has changed, because his understanding has. For the first time, he begins seeing the full scale of the consequences unfolding above. The realization does not provide easy answers. Mythology rarely offers those. Instead, it creates questions. Can love justify disruption? Can destiny excuse suffering? Can a choice be both understandable and harmful? The Greeks left such questions deliberately open, perhaps because life itself leaves them open. The kingdom grows quieter that night. The rivers continue flowing. The pale lights continue shining. The halls remain vast and silent, yet everything feels different. A turning point has arrived. The world above cannot endure its current condition forever. Demeter's grief continues spreading. The earth continues weakening. The gods above are beginning to take notice, and soon even Zeus will be forced to act, because the consequences of Hades' choice have become too large to ignore. The lonely king has finally found companionship, but the price of that companionship may prove greater than anyone expected, and destiny is not finished revealing the cost. The world cannot remain broken forever. Fields cannot stay barren. Harvests cannot fail endlessly. Mortals cannot survive without the gifts of the earth. Sooner or later, balance must return, and so the gods are forced to confront the consequences of what has happened. You stand beneath a grey sky above the earth. The air feels colder than it should. The scent of growing things has faded. Once green fields now lie quiet. Fruit hangs unripe upon branches. Rivers still flow. The sun still rises. Yet life itself seems diminished. Demeter's grief continues reshaping the world. Ancient Greeks would have understood the fear this inspired. A failed harvest meant more than inconvenience. It meant hunger, uncertainty, survival itself placed at risk. The crisis can no longer be ignored. Even Zeus recognizes this. The king of the gods surveys a world slowly weakening beneath the weight of sorrow. His position is not easy. He stands between competing responsibilities. The needs of mortals, the grief of Demeter, the actions of Hades, the desires of Persephone. No solution can satisfy everyone completely. Greek mythology often excels at such dilemmas, problems without perfect answers, choices between competing truths, and this may be one of the greatest examples. Messengers travel, discussions unfold. Ancient traditions describe negotiations in various ways. Some emphasize divine authority, others focus on compromise. Still others highlight the role of fate itself. The details vary. The central idea remains. The separation between worlds cannot continue unchanged. Something must be decided. Meanwhile, Persephone continues adapting to the underworld. The transformation occurring within her is subtle but significant. When she first arrived, she seemed out of place, a figure of spring surrounded by shadows, a daughter of sunlight standing within the realm of death. Now something new is emerging, not a replacement of who she was, an expansion. The Greeks often portrayed important journeys as transformations rather than exchanges. You do not lose one identity and gain another. You become larger than before. Persephone begins moving through the kingdom with growing confidence. She learns its rivers, its laws, its mysteries, its hidden beauty. The pale lights reflected across dark waters no longer seem strange. The vast halls no longer feel empty. The kingdom itself begins responding to her presence. Ancient myths frequently suggest that places are shaped by those who inhabit them, and the underworld is no exception. You walk beside Hades as he observes these changes. The loneliness that defined so much of his existence has begun to ease, not vanish entirely, ease. That distinction matters, because companionship does not erase every wound, yet it can soften them. For perhaps the first time since becoming ruler, Hades feels understood, seen, not as the king of the dead, not as the distant god beneath the earth, simply as himself. The experience changes him. The Greeks believed relationships reveal hidden aspects of character. Love exposes strengths. Love exposes weaknesses. Love reveals truths difficult to discover alone. and Hades is learning all three. Yet uncertainty remains. The future has not been decided. The world above still suffers. Demeter still grieves. The crisis still demands resolution. One evening, an unusual dream comes to Persephone. Dreams continue guiding the story, as they often do in Greek mythology. She stands upon a shoreline, unlike any she has ever seen. To one side stretches a field of flowers, bright, warm, filled with sunlight. To the other side lies the underworld, silent, mysterious, beautiful in its own way. The sea between them remains calm. Neither side calls her exclusively. Neither side rejects her. The dream offers no direct message, only an image, a possibility, a balance. When she awakens, the feeling remains. Ancient listeners would have recognized the symbolism immediately. Persephone belongs to both worlds, not one, both. The realization becomes increasingly important. Eventually, negotiations reach their conclusion. The most familiar tradition introduces a detail that is echoed through centuries of storytelling. The pomegranate, a simple fruit, small, beautiful, yet rich with symbolism. Ancient cultures often associated pomegranates with fertility life and hidden mysteries. Their countless seeds suggested abundance. Their deep red color suggested transformation. According to the myth, Persephone eats seeds from the fruit while in the underworld. The number varies across traditions. Sometimes 6, sometimes fewer, sometimes more. The exact count matters less than the meaning. The act creates a bond, a connection, a tie between Persephone and the realm below. Ancient audiences understood immediately that food often carries symbolic power. To eat somewhere is to belong there in some way. To share nourishment is to share relationship. The pomegranate becomes the physical expression of a deeper truth. Persephone is no longer merely a visitor. The consequences of her journey have changed her, permanently. Yet not negatively, simply permanently. The final agreement emerges from this reality. Part of each year will be spent with Demeter above the earth. Part will be spent with Hades below. The arrangement satisfies no one completely. And perhaps that is why it works. True compromise often feels that way. Everyone gains something. Everyone sacrifices something. The Greeks respected such solutions because life itself often requires them. You can almost feel the relief spreading through creation. The tension begins easing. The world takes a breath. The earth prepares to heal. Demeter will see her daughter again. Persephone will return. Yet she will also leave again. The cycle begins. A cycle that explains the seasons themselves. When Persephone rises, the earth blooms. Flowers emerge. Fields awaken. Warmth returns. When she descends, the world grows quieter, colder, more reflective. Ancient Greeks looked upon nature and saw this story unfolding endlessly around them, not merely as explanation, as meaning. Life and death, presence and absence, loss and reunion. The cycle never truly ends. For Hades, the agreement represents another transformation. He learns something essential. Love cannot. Do not be possessed. It must be shared. The lesson is difficult, yet it deepens his wisdom. The lonely king who once reached desperately toward companionship now accepts a more complex truth. Connection requires freedom, even when freedom creates absence. This realization reveals remarkable growth. Earlier in life, fear imprisoned him. Now he refuses to imprison someone else. The contrast matters. The child once trapped in darkness becomes a ruler capable of allowing departure. The consequence chain continues, every experience shaping the next. One final omen appears as the agreement takes effect. Flowers bloom simultaneously above and below the earth, a rare event, a symbolic event, a reminder that the two realms are no longer entirely separate. The boundary remains. The connection remains too. Ancient priests later spoke of such imagery with reverence. The union of opposites, life and death intertwined, spring and shadow united. And at the center stands Hades, no longer merely the solitary king, no longer merely the ruler of the dead. Now a husband, a partner, a figure whose kingdom has gained not only a queen, but a deeper purpose. Yet destiny still has many lessons ahead, because ruling a kingdom is one challenge. Sharing it is another, and soon both Hades and Persephone will discover what it truly means to govern together. The seasons begin their endless cycle. Persephone rises, the earth blooms. Persephone returns, the world grows quiet. Year after year the pattern continues. Mortals watch leaves appear and fall. They watch flowers open and fade. They watch life move through its familiar rhythm. And beneath it all the story of Hades and Persephone quietly unfolds. The underworld is no longer the lonely kingdom it once was. Its halls feel different now. Its silence feels less empty. Its ruler feels less alone. Yet peace does not mean stillness, because stories have begun spreading across Greece. Stories of a kingdom beneath the earth. Stories of rivers crossed by the dead. Stories of a king and queen ruling beyond mortal life. And wherever stories spread, curiosity follows. Soon, extraordinary visitors begin arriving. Not ordinary souls, not the recently departed. Heroes. The Greeks loved heroes. They filled their myths with daring journeys and impossible tasks. Yet what makes these stories interesting is not simply the heroes themselves. It is what their visits reveal about Hades. Because every guest becomes a mirror. Every encounter reveals another aspect of his character. One of the earliest and most famous visitors is Heracles, known to the Romans as Hercules. Strong, fearless, relentless, a figure whose reputation echoes throughout the ancient world. His arrival comes during one of his legendary labours, a task requiring him to descend into the underworld itself. You stand beside Hades as word of the hero's approach spreads through the kingdom. The air feels cool. The River Styx flows quietly nearby. Pale light reflects across dark waters. The atmosphere remains calm. No panic, no alarm, only awareness. A powerful visitor is coming. Many rulers might respond with hostility. Many kings might view such an intrusion as a threat. Yet Hades remains measured, patient. The same qualities continue guiding him. Ancient traditions differ on the exact details. Some versions describe negotiations. Others emphasize tests of strength and character. What survives consistently is an important truth. Heracles does not simply steal what he seeks. He receives permission. Conditions are established. Boundaries are respected. The encounter reveals something significant about Hades. He values order more than domination, rules more than pride. Even the greatest hero must acknowledge the laws of the realm. And when those laws are respected, cooperation becomes possible. The lesson feels remarkably mature, especially within a mythology often filled with conflict. Heracles eventually departs. The kingdom endures, and Hades gains something perhaps unexpected. Respect, not admiration born from fear. Respect born from fairness. The distinction matters. Years later, another visitor arrives, a very different kind of hero, not famous for strength, not known for battle, known for music, known for love, known for grief. His name is Orpheus. The story begins with loss, as many important stories do. Orpheus loves Eurydice, then death takes her away. Unable to accept the separation, he journeys into the underworld seeking her return. You walk beside him through shadowed pathways. His music echoes through the kingdom. The sound feels unlike anything normally heard here. Soft, beautiful, heartbreaking. Ancient rivers seem to pause and listen. Even the air itself feels changed. The Greeks believed music possessed extraordinary power, not because it could defeat death, because it could reveal truth. And the truth revealed here is simple. Love creates suffering because love creates meaning. The two cannot easily be separated. When Orpheus reaches the throne of Hades and Persephone, something remarkable happens. The rulers listen. Ancient audiences often expected gods to remain distant. Yet this story reveals compassion. The music touches them. The grief feels genuine. The request feels human. For perhaps no rulers understand separation better than Hades and Persephone. Their own lives are defined by it. The king who spent years imprisoned. The queen divided between two worlds. Both understand longing. Both understand absence. Eventually, permission is granted. A condition accompanies it. Orpheus must not look back before leaving the underworld. The condition seems simple, yet mythology often hides profound lessons within simple rules. Trust, patience, faith. The hero must embody all three. You already know how the story ends. Orpheus looks back. Eurydice vanishes. The loss becomes permanent. Many interpretations survive. Some focus on human weakness. Others emphasize the difficulty of trust. Still others see tragedy as unavoidable. What matters here is the role of Hades. He does not deceive. He does not act cruelly. He offers a genuine opportunity. The outcome results from choices made afterward. This distinction shapes his reputation throughout many Greek traditions. Not evil, not benevolent, just. The difference is important. One evening after Orpheus departs, another omen appears. A strange sound echoes through the underworld. Not threatening, not frightening. A distant melody carried by unseen winds. The source remains unknown. Ancient priests later debated its meaning. Some believed it represented memory. Others believed it symbolized the enduring power of love. No certainty survives. Only mystery. The Greeks appreciated such mysteries. Not every question required an answer. Some questions existed simply to inspire reflection. As centuries pass, more heroes arrive. Some seeking knowledge, some seeking glory, some fulfilling quests. Each encounter follows a familiar pattern. Visitors challenge assumptions. Visitors reveal character. And Hades consistently demonstrates the same qualities. Patience, restraint, responsibility. He rarely seeks conflict, yet he rarely abandons principle. The consistency becomes remarkable, particularly when compared with other gods. The underworld itself reflects this stability. Its rivers continue flowing, its laws continue functioning, its rulers continue maintaining balance. The kingdom has matured, and so has its king. The frightened child swallowed by Cronus feels increasingly distant. The lonely ruler from earlier chapters feels increasingly distant as well. Not because those experiences disappeared, because they have been integrated, transformed into wisdom. The process continues. Every challenge adds another layer. Every relationship deepens understanding. Every consequence teaches something new. One final hero deserves mention here, though not for victory, for failure. A king named Theseus once attempted something reckless. Different versions preserve different details, yet all agree the plan was foolish. The underworld is not a realm to be treated lightly. The attempt ends badly. Ancient audiences recognize the lesson immediately. Not every boundary exists to be crossed. Not every challenge deserves acceptance. Wisdom includes recognizing limits, and Hades becomes the guardian of those limits. The symbolism grows deeper with time. He governs not merely death, he governs transitions, boundaries, the places where one state becomes another, the places where choices reveal their consequences. As the centuries unfold, heroes continue telling stories about their journeys below. Mortals continue listening, and gradually perceptions begin changing. People still fear death. That will never disappear. Yet some begin viewing Hades differently. Not as a monster, not as a tyrant, as a ruler performing a difficult duty, a necessary duty, a sacred duty. The realization spreads slowly, like water flowing through stone, like roots growing beneath the earth. And far beyond the underworld, another stage of destiny is already approaching, because even the wisest king cannot escape the weight of eternity, and eternity is beginning to reveal its own challenges. There are burdens that last for a season, burdens that last for a year, burdens that last for a lifetime, and then there are burdens that never end. Hades is beginning to understand the difference. You stand beside him in the quiet hours before what passes for dawn in the underworld. No sun rises here. No golden light spills across the horizon. Instead, a pale glow moves gently through the distant mist. Ancient rivers continue their endless journeys. Soft currents whisper against dark shores. The kingdom remains calm, ordered, stable. Everything functions exactly as it should. And yet Hades feels tired. Not physically. Gods do not tire as mortals do. Something deeper. The fatigue of responsibility. The weight of eternal duty. Centuries have passed. Then more centuries. Empires rise above the earth. Empires fall. Cities are founded. Cities vanish. Generations come and go like waves upon a shore. Yet the underworld remains. Its ruler remains. Its work remains. Every day souls arrive. Every day judgments continue. Every day the balance must be preserved. The cycle never pauses. The realization slowly settles upon him. This task will never end. Ancient myths often explore immortality through surprising angles. Many modern people imagine endless life as a gift. The Greeks were less certain. They understood that eternity carries its own challenges, its own loneliness, its own sacrifices, and Hades experiences those sacrifices more directly than most gods. Zeus can leave Olympus. Poseidon can roam the seas. The ruler of the dead rarely enjoys such freedom. The kingdom always needs him, always. You walk through vast halls beside him. The air feels cool and still. Torchlight flickers against ancient stone. The scent of incense drifts from sacred chambers. Far away, the sound of flowing water echoes softly. The beauty remains, yet beauty alone cannot lighten every burden. The responsibilities continue accumulating. A ruler does not simply govern events. A ruler absorbs them. The grief of mortals, the regrets of kings, the sorrows of families, the countless endings that pass through his realm. Hades witnesses all of them. Over time, these experiences change him, not into someone cruel, not into someone cold, into someone thoughtful. Because death strips away illusions, every soul eventually arrives carrying the truth of their life. The masks worn above the earth become less important. The titles become less important. The wealth becomes less important. What remains are choices, relationships, memories, consequences. The lessons of mortality surround Hades every day. Few beings possess such perspective. One evening, while walking beside the river Lethe, another dream arrives. Dreams have followed him throughout life. This one feels different, older, deeper. In the vision, he stands upon a vast shoreline. The sea stretches endlessly before him. The water remains perfectly still. No waves, no wind, no sound. Across the horizon drift countless lights. Thousands, millions, each representing a mortal life. Some shine brightly, some flicker softly, some disappear, others emerge. The pattern never stops. The vision feels beautiful and overwhelming. When Hades awakens, the feeling remains. Ancient interpreters might have called it a warning, or perhaps a revelation. The meaning seems clear enough. The ruler of the dead serves something larger than himself, much larger. The endless procession of life and death itself. The dream leaves him reflective, quiet, the same quiet that has followed him since childhood. Yet now it carries wisdom rather than isolation. That distinction matters, because loneliness has changed over the centuries. In earlier years, it felt like absence. Now it feels more like distance. A subtle difference, a meaningful one. Persephone remains beside him. Their relationship has deepened with time. Ancient myths often focus on dramatic beginnings. Less attention is given to what follows. Yet what follows may be more important. Partnership, trust, shared responsibility, the daily work of understanding another soul. You observe them together within the halls of the underworld. The queen who moves between worlds, the king who remains below. At first glance, their lives seem incompatible, yet they have discovered balance. Not perfect balance. Balance rarely exists in perfect form, but enough. Enough to endure, enough to grow, enough to transform loneliness into companionship. The Greeks valued this kind of relationship. Not a fairy tale, not effortless harmony, something stronger, a bond capable of surviving change. And change never stops. One year blends into another. Mortals continue arriving. Heroes become legends. Legends become memories. Memories become stories. Stories become myths. Hades watches the process endlessly. The perspective alters him, gradually, inevitably. Because witnessing countless lives teaches humility. Even gods benefit from humility. Perhaps especially gods. One afternoon, a curious event occurs. A newly arrived soul recognizes him, not with fear, not with terror, with gratitude. The mortal had lived a long life, a difficult life. The arrival in the underworld feels almost like rest. The exchange is brief, simple, yet it lingers in Hades' thoughts. Ancient storytellers occasionally included such moments, not because they were dramatic, because they revealed deeper truths. Death is not only loss, sometimes it is completion, sometimes it is peace, sometimes it is the final chapter of a story ready to end. The realization reinforces something Hades has slowly learned. His kingdom serves a purpose, a necessary purpose. Without endings, beginnings lose meaning. Without death, life changes fundamentally. The Greeks did not celebrate mortality, yet they accepted its place within existence, and Hades becomes the guardian of that acceptance. Still, responsibility remains heavy. The burden never vanishes entirely. One night, another omen appears. This time, it arrives through silence. The underworld grows unusually still. Even the rivers seem quieter. The atmosphere feels suspended, waiting. Ancient seers would have interpreted such stillness carefully. Sometimes silence speaks louder than thunder. Hades senses it immediately, a reminder, a warning, perhaps simply a truth. Eternity continues. The work continues. No final victory awaits. No retirement, no conclusion. Only responsibility, endless responsibility. Surprisingly, the realization no longer frightens him. Years earlier it might have. Now it feels different, almost peaceful, because purpose changes how burdens are experienced. A meaningless weight crushes. A meaningful weight strengthens. Hades understands the difference. The child imprisoned in darkness could never have imagined this future. The young warrior fighting titans could never have imagined it either. Yet every experience led here, every consequence, every relationship, every sacrifice. The path forms a complete circle. The ruler has become what destiny intended, not through prophecy alone, through choices, through endurance, through growth. And yet another chapter still waits ahead, because individual lives eventually end. Legacies do not. The influence of Hades is beginning to spread far beyond his kingdom, into temples, into rituals, into the imaginations of mortals. The silent king beneath the earth is becoming something more than a ruler. He is becoming a symbol, and symbols often outlive the worlds that created them. A king rules a kingdom. A guardian protects a boundary. But over time, Hades becomes something more, a witness to humanity itself. You stand beside him within one of the great halls of the underworld. The air is cool and still. Pale light reflects across polished stone. Ancient columns disappear into distant shadows. The soft murmur of unseen rivers echoes far away. The kingdom feels eternal, and in many ways it is. Yet the souls arriving here are anything but eternal. Each carries a story. Each carries memories. Each carries the consequences of choices made beneath the sun. For centuries, Hades has watched them arrive. Kings wrapped in pride, warriors carrying regrets, farmers exhausted by honest labor, mothers mourning children, children searching for familiar faces, poets clutching dreams, sailors remembering distant horizons. No two journeys are exactly alike. The variety fascinates him. Ancient myths sometimes portray death as a destination. The Greeks often understood it differently. Death was a revelation, a moment when appearances faded, a moment when truth became difficult to avoid, and Hades witnesses that truth every day. The experience changes him, slowly, profoundly. The ruler who once worried about loneliness now spends his days surrounded by the entire human experience. Not physically, emotionally. The kingdom becomes a vast archive of mortal lives, an endless collection of hopes and failures, victories and mistakes, love and loss. The deeper Hades observes, the more his understanding grows. Ancient traditions often associate judgment within the underworld with figures such as Minos Rhadamanthus and Iacchus. These judges help determine the destinations of souls. Yet Hades remains the ultimate guardian of the system itself, the protector of fairness, the keeper of balance. The role suits him, because fairness has become increasingly important to him over the centuries. Perhaps because he understands injustice so well. After all, his own life began with it. He remembers imprisonment. He remembers helplessness. He remembers fear. The consequences of those experiences never disappear. Instead, they become wisdom. A ruler who has suffered often recognizes suffering in others, and Hades recognizes it everywhere. One afternoon, a newly arrived king appears before the judges. The mortal spent his life surrounded by wealth and power. His palaces glittered. His armies obeyed. His subjects feared him. Yet now none of that matters. The crown remains above. The kingdom remains above. The titles remain above. Only the soul has arrived. You watch Hades observe the scene. There is no cruelty in his gaze, no satisfaction, only understanding. The lesson repeats endlessly. Death equalizes. The same gates receive rulers and shepherds. The same rivers carry the famous and forgotten. The same kingdom welcomes all. Ancient Greeks found something strangely comforting in this idea. Frightening, certainly, but comforting too, because it suggested a deeper order beneath life's inequalities. The perspective strengthens Hades' sense of justice. He becomes less concerned with status, more concerned with truth, less interested in appearances, more interested in character. The transformation continues. One evening, Persephone joins him beside a quiet riverbank. The pale light shimmers across still waters. A cool breeze moves through nearby groves. The scent of unseen flowers drifts through the air. The scene feels peaceful. Together they watch souls crossing distant pathways. No words are needed at first. Ancient myths rarely describe every conversation. Sometimes silence tells enough. Eventually Persephone speaks. Different traditions imagine different exchanges, yet many share a similar theme: compassion. The queen sees hope where others see endings. The king sees order where others see chaos. Together they create balance. The relationship has matured far beyond its difficult beginnings. The years have transformed both of them. This matters because mythology often focuses on dramatic events. The deeper stories focus on growth, the people or gods we become after those events. And Hades has grown enormously. The lonely ruler has become a wise partner. The silent king has become a thoughtful guardian. The transformation remains one of the most remarkable in Greek mythology. Another omen arrives several nights later. This time, it comes through the stars, or rather, through their reflection. A pool within the underworld suddenly mirrors constellations not visible in the sky above. The image seems impossible, yet myths are filled with impossible things. Ancient seers interpret the vision as a reminder. The realms of existence remain connected. Life and death, heaven and earth, memory and destiny. Nothing exists entirely alone. The symbolism resonates deeply with Hades, because his own understanding has reached a similar conclusion. Everything connects. Every choice influences another. Every life touches countless others. Every ending becomes part of a larger story. The realization feels almost philosophical. The Greeks loved such reflections, not as abstract theories, as lived experiences. And no god experiences them more directly than Hades. As centuries continue passing, stories about the underworld spread among mortals. Temples remain relatively rare. Fear still surrounds his name. Many people hesitate to speak it aloud, yet attitudes slowly evolve. Some begin viewing him differently, not as a monster waiting in darkness, as a necessary presence, a guardian performing a difficult task. The shift happens gradually, like water shaping stone, like roots growing beneath the earth. The reputation of Hades becomes more complex, more nuanced, closer to the ancient reality. One story in particular begins circulating among poets, a story suggesting that Hades never judges souls based upon wealth, never favors the powerful, never bends the laws of the underworld for personal gain. Whether literally true or not matters less than what it reveals. People are beginning to associate him with fairness. That association becomes part of his legacy, and legacies matter, because gods live not only through power, they live through memory, the way others understand them, the meanings attached to their names, the stories whispered beside fires, the prayers spoken in temples, the lessons passed between generations. Hades is becoming larger than himself, a symbol, a principle, an idea. Yet symbols often create misunderstandings as easily as understanding, and soon another challenge will emerge, not within the underworld, within the minds of mortals, because fear has a habit of reshaping stories, and many people will come to fear Hades far more than they truly understand him. That misunderstanding will become one of the most enduring parts of his legacy. Fear is a curious thing. It grows in darkness. It grows in uncertainty. And few things create more uncertainty than death. You stand beside a quiet shrine somewhere in ancient Greece. The evening air feels cool. Olive trees sway gently in the breeze. The scent of burning oil drifts from a small lamp. Above, countless stars shimmer across the night sky. A family has gathered to pray, yet they do not speak Hades' name aloud. Not directly. Instead, they use other titles. Gentler titles. Safer titles. Names that feel less dangerous. Ancient Greeks often referred to Hades as the wealthy one, or the receiver of many, not because they hated him, because they feared attracting his attention. The practice reveals something fascinating. Over the centuries, Hades himself has changed very little, but the way mortals imagine him has changed considerably, and perception often becomes more powerful than reality. The Greeks lived close to death, much closer than many modern people. War, disease, storms at sea, failed harvests. The dangers were everywhere. Almost every family knew loss. Almost every village carried memories of grief. When people thought about death, they naturally thought about the god ruling the dead, and fear followed. Not necessarily fear of Hades personally, fear of what he represented. The difference is important. You walk beside Hades through the halls of the underworld as these beliefs spread above. The kingdom remains orderly. The rivers continue flowing. The judges continue their work. Nothing fundamental has changed, yet stories grow. Whispers spread, rumors evolve. This is the nature of human imagination. Ancient storytellers rarely intended Hades to resemble a devil or embodiment of evil. That concept belongs more strongly to later traditions. Greek mythology presents something subtler. Death itself is frightening. Therefore, the ruler of death becomes frightening. The association happens almost automatically. The process fascinates Hades, perhaps saddens him at times, but rarely surprises him. After all, he understands mortals well. He has spent centuries observing them. He knows their hopes. He knows their fears. He knows that fear often transforms perception. One evening, Persephone joins him upon a balcony overlooking one of the great rivers. The pale glow of the underworld reflects softly across the water. The air feels cool. The silence feels peaceful. Far away, newly arrived souls move along ancient paths. The queen has noticed the growing stories above, the changing reputation, the increasing caution surrounding his name. Different traditions imagine different conversations, yet many share a common theme: understanding. Persephone recognizes something important. The fear is not truly about Hades. It is about mortality. The king happens to stand at the place where mortality becomes unavoidable. The realization offers perspective. Ancient myths often suggest wisdom begins when personal experiences are viewed within larger patterns, and Hades has become very wise. He no longer interprets every fear as an insult, every misunderstanding as an attack. Instead, he sees the deeper truth. People fear endings. People fear loss. People fear separation. The emotions existed long before his kingdom. They would exist even without it. This understanding deepens his compassion. One night, another dream arrives. This time, the dream does not belong to Hades. It belongs to a mortal, a fisherman sleeping beside the sea. Ancient traditions frequently describe divine messages reaching ordinary people through dreams. The fisherman sees a vast gate standing beneath a star-filled sky. At first, he fears it. Then the gate opens. Beyond it lies not terror, not punishment, a quiet landscape illuminated by soft light. The dream spreads after he shares it. Some dismiss it, others listen carefully. The story matters because it reflects another side of ancient belief. Not every Greek viewed the underworld with pure dread. Many saw it as inevitable, necessary, a continuation rather than an annihilation. The perspectives coexisted, fear and acceptance, anxiety and understanding. The tension between them becomes part of Hades' legacy. Meanwhile, temples dedicated to other gods flourish across the Greek world. Magnificent sanctuaries rise beneath open skies. Festivals celebrate divine victories. Crowds gather for rituals and feasts. Hades receives fewer public celebrations. The reason feels obvious. People hesitate to invite death into their festivities. Yet this absence creates another misunderstanding. Less visibility often encourages speculation, and speculation encourages myth-making. You can almost watch the process unfold. A traveller tells a story, another embellishes it. A poet adds symbolism, a listener adds fear. Generations pass, the image evolves. The quiet ruler becomes increasingly mysterious. The mysterious ruler becomes increasingly frightening. The cycle continues. Ancient historians and modern scholars alike have noted this phenomenon. The relative scarcity of public worship surrounding Hades contributed to his aura of mystery. People tend to fear what remains unseen. The irony would not be lost on Hades himself. After all, invisibility shaped much of his life. The helm of darkness, the hidden kingdom, the quiet victories during the Titanomachy. Again and again his story unfolds beyond public view. The consequences continue, yet not all perceptions move toward fear. Some move toward reverence. Miners working deep beneath the earth sometimes pray for protection. Farmers recognize that seeds disappear underground before new life emerges. Mystery religions begin exploring deeper questions about death and rebirth. Within these traditions, Hades often appears less terrifying, more symbolic, more profound, the ruler of hidden transitions, the guardian of necessary change. The contrast fascinates. Two images developing simultaneously. The feared king, the respected guardian. Both contain truth. Neither contains the whole truth. Perhaps that is unavoidable. No symbol can perfectly capture a complex being, especially one connected to something as universal as death. One afternoon, an unusual omen appears within the underworld. A group of souls arrives together. They come from different cities, different backgrounds, different lives. Yet they all carry the same object, a small coin placed with them during burial. The sight moves Hades more than expected, because the coins represent trust. Generations of mortals preparing for their journey, acknowledging the reality of the crossing, honoring ancient traditions. The gesture reminds him that fear is not the entire story. Respect exists alongside it. Acceptance exists alongside it. Understanding exists alongside it. The realization brings a quiet sense of peace. As centuries continue passing, Hades becomes increasingly comfortable with ambiguity. People will fear him. People will misunderstand him. People will honor him. People will respect him. All of these responses will coexist. Trying to control them would be impossible. Trying to eliminate them would be pointless. The wiser path is acceptance. Another lesson learned through long experience. Another consequence of eternal responsibility. The king who once struggled against loneliness now rarely struggles against reputation. He understands that symbols belong partly to those who interpret them, and mortals will always interpret death through the lens of their own hopes and fears. The process cannot be stopped, nor should it be, because those interpretations keep the conversation alive. They keep the stories alive. They keep the questions alive, and questions matter, perhaps more than answers. For far beneath the earth, Hades continues performing his duty regardless of how others perceive him. The rivers flow, the souls arrive, the kingdom endures, and somewhere within the shadows, another aspect of his legacy is preparing to emerge. Not fear, not death, wealth, the hidden treasures buried beneath the earth itself, a different side of the king, a side many mortals often forget. When most mortals think of Hades, they think of endings, they think of shadows, they think of graves and distant kingdoms beyond life. Yet, beneath those familiar images lies another truth, a quieter truth, a richer truth. You stand upon a hillside in ancient Greece at the edge of harvest season. Golden grain moves gently beneath the wind. The scent of warm earth rises from freshly turned soil. Olive trees shimmer beneath afternoon sunlight. In the distance, farmers work patiently beneath a blue sky. Everything feels alive. Everything feels abundant. And yet all of it depends upon something hidden. The earth itself, the same earth beneath which Hades rules. Ancient Greeks understood this connection deeply. The underworld was not merely the realm of the dead. It was also the realm beneath the surface, the realm of buried treasures, hidden metals, fertile soil, seeds waiting in darkness before returning to life. The symbolism is beautiful and perhaps surprising Because the god associated with death also becomes associated with abundance. You walk beside Hades through a cavern filled with glittering mineral veins. Gold catches pale light. Silver shines from ancient stone. Crystals reflect soft colours across the walls. The air feels cool and still. The beauty is breathtaking. Ancient worshippers notice these connections. How could they not? Everything valuable seemed to emerge from below. Gold from mines, silver from mountains, precious gems from deep caverns. Even crops depended upon seeds disappearing beneath the earth before rising again. The pattern repeated everywhere. Hidden things creating visible blessings, and who ruled hidden things? Hades. This association eventually gave him another title, Plauton, the wealthy one, the giver of riches. Many Greeks preferred this title, not only because it felt safer, because it revealed another aspect of his nature. Death was only one part of his kingdom. Fertility, transformation, hidden abundance, these belong to him as well. The realization changes how you see him. Perhaps it changes how ancient worshippers saw him too. One afternoon, Persephone joins him near a subterranean garden. The existence of such gardens may seem surprising, yet many traditions describe beautiful places within the underworld. Not every region is bleak. Not every landscape is sorrowful. Greek mythology rarely embraces simple categories. The garden glows with pale flowers. Soft light reflects from nearby streams. The scent of blossoms fills the air. Persephone kneels beside a cluster of white flowers. Her presence transforms the scene. The queen of seasonal renewal, surrounded by hidden life beneath the earth. The symbolism feels perfect. Ancient mystery traditions often emphasize this relationship. Seeds vanish, seeds return. Life disappears, life returns. The cycle continues endlessly. Death and renewal become partners rather than enemies. And Hades stands at the center of that partnership, not destroying life, protecting the cycle through which life continues. The understanding deepens his significance enormously. He is no longer merely a ruler of endings. He becomes a guardian of transformation, a keeper of transitions, a protector of hidden potential. The theme echoes throughout his entire life. After all, Hades himself experienced transformation through darkness. The imprisoned child became a king. The lonely ruler found companionship. The feared god became a symbol of justice. Again and again, darkness led to unexpected growth. Perhaps that is why the symbolism resonates so strongly. Ancient myths often reflect deeper patterns, and this pattern appears everywhere. One evening, another omen arrives. This time, it emerges from the earth itself. A newly opened cavern reveals an extraordinary deposit of gold. The discovery spreads quickly among nearby mortals. Excitement follows, hope follows, yet so does greed. The reaction fascinates Hades, because wealth reveals character just as power does. Some miners share their good fortune, others hoard it. Some communities prosper together, others descend into conflict. The gold itself remains neutral. Human choices determine its consequences. The lesson feels familiar. Many things in life work this way. Power, love, knowledge, wealth. The gifts themselves are not the problem. The use of them matters. Watching these patterns unfold teaches Hades another layer of wisdom. Mortals often fear death, yet many suffer more from greed than mortality. Many create their own misery through endless desire. The irony is difficult to ignore. Ancient philosophers would later explore similar ideas. The pursuit of more can become its own prison, and Hades understands prisons very well, far better than most. One day, a group of worshippers brings offerings in his honor. The ritual takes place near the entrance of a mine. The scent of incense drifts through the air. Oil lamps flicker against stone walls. Prayers rise softly into the darkness. The people do not ask for victory in battle. They do not ask for fame. They ask for prosperity, protection, fair fortune. The moment reveals something important. Not everyone approaches Hades through fear. Some approach through gratitude, some through respect, some through recognition of his connection to the hidden gifts of the earth. The variety broadens his legacy, and rightly so, because human beings are rarely defined by a single role. Neither are gods. Another dream arrives several nights later. In the vision, Hades walks through an endless field of grain. Golden stalks stretch toward the horizon. The air smells warm and sweet. The wind moves gently through the harvest. As he watches, the grain sinks beneath the earth. For a moment, the field becomes empty. Then new shoots emerge. Fresh, green, alive. The cycle repeats endlessly. Ancient interpreters would have recognized the symbolism immediately. Death and renewal, loss and return, the hidden process through which life continues. When Hades awakens, the dream feels comforting, not because it explains everything, because it reminds him of something essential. Endings are rarely absolute. They often become beginnings in another form. The idea appears throughout Greek mythology, throughout religion, throughout human experience, and Hades has become one of its greatest symbols. As centuries continue passing, the title Pluton grows increasingly popular in some regions. The wealthy one, the giver of hidden riches. The name softens certain fears. It encourages deeper reflection. The ruler of the dead remains the ruler of the dead, yet he also becomes something more. A reminder that valuable things often emerge from darkness. Wisdom, strength, compassion, growth. Even seeds require darkness before they bloom. The symbolism would have felt profoundly meaningful to ancient audiences. Perhaps it still does, because everyone experiences periods of darkness. Everyone endures uncertainty. Everyone waits for something hidden to emerge. Hades' story quietly suggests that such periods are not always empty. Sometimes they are preparing transformation. The lesson lingers, like a distant melody, like the scent of flowers carried on spring air, and soon another stage of his legacy will appear. For the longer mortals tell stories about Hades, the more complicated he becomes. Not evil, not good, something more difficult, something more human, something more enduring. A god who exists beyond simple categories. A god who continues challenging the boundaries between light and shadow. As the centuries pass, something curious happens. The life of Hades begins slipping beyond his own control. Not his kingdom, not his responsibilities, his story. You stand beside a fire in ancient Greece as travelers share myths beneath a star-filled sky. The scent of wood smoke drifts through the cool evening air. Crickets sing in distant fields. The flames cast dancing shadows across attentive faces. One storyteller describes Hades as terrifying. Another describes him as fair. A third insists he is misunderstood. A fourth argues that no mortal truly knows him at all. The discussion continues deep into the night. And perhaps that is fitting, because Hades has become larger than a single story, larger than a single interpretation. He has become a symbol, and symbols are never owned by one generation alone. They evolve, they transform, they gather meanings as they travel through time. Ancient Greeks themselves rarely agreed completely about the gods. Different cities emphasized different traditions. Different poets told different versions. Different priests preserved different memories. The variety was not considered a problem. It was expected. Mythology was alive, and living things change. Hades may be the perfect example. You return to the underworld. The rivers continue flowing. The pale lights continue shining. The kingdom remains steady. The reality of Hades has changed very little, yet above perceptions continue shifting. Some mortals focus on fear, others focus on justice. Some remember the abduction of Persephone. Others remember the faithful ruler who rarely abuses power. Some emphasize death, others emphasize transformation. All of them capture fragments of truth. None capture everything. Ancient philosophers eventually become interested in such contradictions. How can one figure represent both fear and necessity? How can one kingdom symbolize both endings and renewal? How can one god appear distant while performing such an essential role? The questions fascinate them. The answers remain elusive. And perhaps that is exactly why Hades endures. Simple figures rarely survive for millennia. Complex figures do. One afternoon, Hades walks beside Persephone through a quiet region of the underworld. The air feels cool and peaceful. A soft glow reflects across still waters. Ancient trees rise from the mist. The kingdom feels timeless. You watch them move together. The king and queen, the ruler of death and the goddess of seasonal renewal. The contrast remains remarkable, even after centuries, perhaps especially after centuries, because their relationship embodies a truth larger than either of them. Life and death are not enemies. They are partners. The Greeks understood this. The seed must enter darkness before it grows. The harvest must end before another begins. The cycle never stops, and Hades occupies a necessary place within it. This understanding gradually influences how some mortals perceive him, not as a destroyer, as a guardian of balance, a difficult balance, but a balance nonetheless. Another interpretation survives through mystery traditions. These secret religious movements often explore deeper questions about existence, life after death, the soul, transformation, renewal. Within some of these traditions, Hades appears less frightening than in public imagination, more philosophical, more symbolic, almost as a gatekeeper between states of being. Historians continue debating exactly how these groups understood him. The evidence remains incomplete. The mystery remains. Yet the possibility itself feels meaningful because it reminds us that ancient people were never as simple as modern stereotypes suggest. They questioned, they reflected, they searched for deeper meanings, just as we do. One evening, a remarkable omen appears. The waters of a sacred pool within the underworld become perfectly reflective, not unusual by itself. But what appears within the reflection is strange. The pool does not show the present. It shows countless generations, mortals living, loving, aging, dying, children becoming parents, parents becoming ancestors, cities rising, cities falling. The vision unfolds endlessly, like a river of human history. Ancient seers might have interpreted the omen as a reminder individual lives matter, yet they also belong to something larger, a continuous story stretching across time. Hades studies the reflection quietly. The image resonates deeply because he has witnessed much of it firsthand. Empires have come and gone. Languages have changed. Heroes have become legends. Legends have become myths. Yet the essential human experience remains surprisingly constant. Hope, fear, love, loss. The same themes return again and again. The realization fills him with unexpected compassion, not pity. Compassion. The difference matters. He does not look down upon mortals. He understands them, perhaps better than many gods, because he sees them at their most honest moments, when titles disappear, when wealth becomes irrelevant, when only truth remains. This perspective shapes his legacy more than any single myth, far more than battles, far more than prophecies, far more than dramatic stories. The deepest legacy of Hades is understanding endings, understanding consequences, understanding what truly matters when everything else falls away. The child swallowed by fear could never have imagined such wisdom, yet every chapter of his life contributed to it. The darkness, the imprisonment, the war, the kingdom, Persephone, the endless procession of souls. Nothing was wasted. Every experience became part of the whole. The Greeks often viewed wisdom this way, not as knowledge accumulated, as suffering transformed into insight. If so, Hades becomes one of mythology's wisest figures, not because he knows everything, because he has endured much and learned from it. Another question begins emerging among mortals. A fascinating question. Is Hades good or evil? The Greeks themselves would likely find the question strange. Their gods rarely fit such categories. Nature itself does not fit such categories. Winter is not evil. Storms are not evil. Death is not evil. They simply exist, necessary, powerful, unavoidable. Hades belongs to that tradition. He is not a moral lesson. He is a reality given personality and form through myth. The realization explains much. Why he feels different from many later portrayals. Why he remains difficult to categorize. Why his story continues inspiring discussion thousands of years later. Because human beings instinctively seek simple answers, and Hades refuses to provide them. He remains complicated, thoughtful, mysterious, a figure existing somewhere beyond easy judgment. Perhaps that is why he endures so powerfully. Not despite the ambiguity, because of it. The stars continue shining above the world. The rivers continue flowing below. The stories continue spreading between generations. And as Hades watches the endless movement of life and death, one final truth begins taking shape. The greatest legacy is not power, not fear, not even wisdom. It is memory. The way a life continues echoing long after events themselves have ended. And soon the story of Hades will enter its final reflection. A reflection not on what he ruled, but on what he ultimately became. At the beginning of our journey, there was a mystery. A child swallowed by darkness. A god hidden from the light. A life shaped by fear before it had truly begun. Now, after centuries of stories, choices, sacrifices, and transformations, you stand beside Hades one final time, and the mystery feels different. Not solved, understood. There is a difference. You find yourself at the edge of the underworld, where a quiet river disappears into silver mist. The air is cool. The scent of distant flowers drifts softly through the darkness. Ancient waters move with gentle patience. Above, though unseen, from here the stars continue their endless journeys across the heavens. The world remains in motion. It always will. Hades stands quietly beside the river. The king, the judge, the guardian, the husband, the survivor. So many titles, yet none fully capture him. Ancient myths often begin with dramatic events. Wars, prophecies, battles, rebellions. Yet when you look back across the life of Hades, those moments no longer seem most important. The deeper story lies elsewhere, in endurance, in responsibility, in acceptance. The frightened child inside Cronus, the warrior fighting beside his brothers, the lonely ruler wandering silent halls, the husband learning the meaning of partnership, the king discovering wisdom through countless mortal lives. Each version remains part of him. None replace the others. The Greeks understood identity this way. A person is not a single moment. A person is a collection of moments. A river rather than a statue. Always moving, always becoming. And Hades spent his entire existence becoming. The river beside you continues flowing. Its surface reflects pale light. Watching it feels strangely calming. Perhaps because rivers never resist their nature. They simply move forward. Hades has learned the same lesson. Many times he could have surrendered to bitterness. His childhood offered reasons. His isolation offered reasons. The misunderstandings of mortals offered reasons. Yet again and again he chose something else. Duty, patience, balance. The choice shaped everything. One final dream comes to him. Or perhaps it is not a dream. Perhaps it is merely reflection. The distinction no longer matters. He sees the great moments of his life drifting across still waters. Cronus, Rhea, the darkness of imprisonment, the first sight of the sky, the thunder of the Titan war, the gift of the helm, the rivers of the underworld, the field of flowers, Persephone, the countless souls crossing into his kingdom. The images pass quietly, without judgment, without regret, simply memories. Ancient Greeks often believed that wisdom involved seeing one's life as a whole, not isolated victories, not isolated failures, the whole. And when Hades looks across the entirety of his existence, a pattern emerges. Every hardship prepared him for something. Every loss taught something. Every burden revealed something. Even the darkness, especially the darkness, because darkness taught him patience, and patience taught him wisdom. You sit beside the river for a while longer. The silence feels peaceful now. Not empty, not lonely. Peaceful. There was a time when Hades feared isolation. There was a time when he longed desperately for connection. There was a time when he wondered whether his kingdom would always feel incomplete. Those years shaped him, but they did not define him. Persephone changed that, not by rescuing him, not by fixing him, by walking beside him. The distinction matters. The strongest relationships in mythology are rarely about rescue. They are about partnership. And together they created something neither could have built alone. A bridge between worlds. A balance between endings and beginnings. A reminder that life and death have never truly been enemies, only partners in a cycle larger than either. Far above, spring will come again. Flowers will bloom. Children will laugh in sunlit fields. Harvests will rise from dark soil. The cycle will continue. And beneath every blossom lies a hidden truth the Greeks never forgot. Seeds grow in darkness first. The symbolism feels fitting, because the life of Hades is in many ways the story of a seed, buried, hidden, forgotten, then transformed, not into something bright and celebrated, into something necessary, something enduring, something wise. The stories mortals tell about him will continue changing. Some will fear him, some will misunderstand him, some will see him as a villain, others as a guardian, still others as a symbol of the mysteries waiting beyond life. All of those stories will survive, and none will fully capture the whole truth, because the whole truth is quieter. The whole truth lives here beside the river, in the understanding that Hades was never simply the god of death. He was the keeper of boundaries, the protector of balance, the witness to every human story, the ruler who understood that endings matter because beginnings matter, and beginnings matter because endings exist. The river continues flowing. The mist drifts softly through the air. The scent of flowers lingers. Everything feels calm, very calm. The stars move across the heavens. The seasons turn. The generations pass. The world changes endlessly. Yet somewhere beneath it all, the silent king remains at his post. Patient, thoughtful, watchful, not waiting for glory, not seeking praise, simply fulfilling the responsibility entrusted to him long ago. And perhaps that is why his story endures. Not because he ruled the dead, because he accepted the burden no one else wanted, because he carried it faithfully, because he transformed suffering into wisdom. The river disappears into silver mist. The kingdom grows quiet. The story slows. And as the ancient world settles beneath a sky filled with stars, the life of Hades drifts gently into memory. A memory of darkness transformed. A memory of duty embraced. A memory of a king who found meaning not in power but in purpose. And beneath the endless stars, the guardian of the dead remains where he has always been. Silent, steady, at peace.